Welcome to the Launch Masterclass. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to have you here. Been building up to this for 14 months. The last time I did one of these was September of 2020, and I am just pumped for what we're about to do in this next week. In just a minute, I'm going to head back to the main set right back there, and we're going to get in, but I just thought I'd do a little bit of housekeeping before we get rolling. So this is going to start fast with 3 sessions, today, tomorrow, and Sunday. So it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, at least if you're in the US. If you're up early in Australia, I'm off by a day. But it's going to start fast. It's going to go for the next week until next Friday. I've got so much for you. This is all about getting yourself launched. So make no mistake, there are some people, it's almost 30,000 people now have registered for this Launch Masterclass. The last number I saw was just under 30,000, and the registrations were pouring in. And some people will have their lives changed. I absolutely guarantee it. Every year it happens. Some people will attend this and their lives will be changed. But in order to do that, you have to focus in. You have to focus in. So turn off all your distractions, mute your phone. You can turn your phone on airplane mode. All those messages, they'll still be with you when we're done. They'll be waiting for you when we're done. So turn off distractions, turn off Messenger, turn off everything and focus in, because there's no theory here. This is how people launch. So let me just check. I've got some notes here. I want to make sure I've got everything covered. Let's see. This is live. As you can see, I'm already checking notes and stuff like that. So it's 100% live. And we are going to go, usually this first lesson goes between 2.5 and 3 hours, which I know sounds incredibly long, but it will fly by. I've got my tricks to keep it moving. It's going to fly by. Please, it's just, at the end of the day, it's just me and a couple people here in this room who I'll introduce you to. Me, a couple people, and a whole bunch of cameras. So I don't have 30,000 people in front of me right now. The way I draw energy from your comments. So please, I got a little iPad over there. I can watch your comments. Please put in your comments, put in your questions. We'll be gathering questions. I'll be taking questions throughout. You might have to register for Discuss. That's like the greatest mystery in the world, but there's a plugin we use to manage the comments, and it's spelled DISQUS. You might have to register once for that if you've never used it before, but go ahead and get registered there so you can leave me comments. And this is being streamed a few different places in the world, but the best place, the best experience is on our concierge page. If you go to productlaunchformula.com, then you'll end up on the concierge page. That's the link we keep on sending you via email. Just click on that link. So if you're watching this on YouTube or on Facebook or somewhere else, the best place is on the concierge page, because my coaches are there to interact. I'll be able to see your comments there. I won't be able to see them if they're on Facebook. And we've got other resources. I've got the action guide that you can download. It's right there. So go to productlaunchformula.com. That's the best experience for you to have. We will have a replay for this. We're going to cover a lot of ground. We'll have a replay. We've got you covered. We'll have it up fairly quickly, but I want you to be here live with me because it helps my energy. And frankly, what I've noticed is that people that show up live tend to get the best results, because a lot of times you say, I'll watch the replay, but you don't actually watch the replay. So if you're here live with me, you are watching. And so one of my carrots to try to get you to be here live with me is that we have a super secret segment. So that's a segment, a content piece that will come during the broadcast that we will cut out of the replay. That's just sort of my inducement to you to show up live. So I think, one more thing. We are going to, even as if 3 hours isn't enough, we will have an after hours segment that's going to be in the Facebook group. And that will be with my coaches. I think we'll actually have after hours every day, and we'll have different coaches on every day. But I think today it's Dorothea and Barry, and JT will be hosting that. So they'll be, after I wrap up, the after hours party starts in Facebook, and they'll be answering more questions and delivering more awesomeness for you. So Dan, did I forget anything at all? Are we all good?
I think we're ready to get this party started.
Okay, it's time to get the party started. You ready? It's time for the Launch Masterclass. It's been 25 years since I started my online business. It had the most humble beginnings you could imagine. I started from a homemade desk in my basement. That was in 1996, when online business was barely a thing. My friends and family wondered if I was chasing a silly dream. But I had a vision, even way back then. I had a vision for an online business that I could run from anywhere. An online business that could reach the world. When I first started out, there was no one to learn from. So I went way back, as far as 70 years back, to study old school marketing legends. My success came ever so slowly, but the results kept growing. I had to invent a new way of marketing, a new way of launching. Then, in the early 2000s, people started to notice my results, and the calls started to come in. They wanted to learn from me. They wanted my formula. In 2005, I published the very first edition of my launch formula. And it sounds crazy to say, but that one training, constantly updated, has become the stuff of legend. It changed online business forever. And now, all these years later, people still wonder if they can have an online business, or if it's just a silly dream. They wonder if it's too late, or there's too much competition. But this is what I know. There's never been a better time to start and grow an online business. Because the last couple of years has made online business the new normal. And online education is literally becoming a mandate. You see, this story really isn't about me. It's about my students and what they've done. Because they've had over $1 billion in launches. This is the story of how, with hard work and the right formula, they changed the trajectory of their lives. They've built businesses and created amazing lifestyles. And whether they're teaching people to meditate or play tennis, whether they're helping people with their health or their relationships, they've changed the lives of their clients. So they're the real heroes. And now, with this Launch Masterclass, it's time to welcome a new class of heroes. So welcome to the Launch Masterclass. Buckle your seatbelt because it's time to launch. Boom, here we are. It's Friday. It's the beginning of the Launch Masterclass. We have 8 days to get you launched. It's crazy, but I have now had over 1 million people go through this training. And it just might sound absolutely ludicrous. Later on, I'll tell you how you get to have 1 million people go through a training. But part of it is because I've been doing this for 15 years. I've been helping people get launched. So it's like, what does that mean to launch? Like if you want an online course, let's just say an online business of any sort. You want to publish an online course, a membership site, a mastermind, a workshop, a coaching program. If you want to have that online business, you need to launch. No one shows up slowly and launches. A launch gives you momentum right from the start. If you look at the way Apple does it, Apple, they just released a new MacBook Pro. And I need a new MacBook Pro. And I couldn't wait till they launched that thing. And I was counting down because they had all these rumors coming out and they had all these hints. And then they had this event coming up and then they announced it. And then they refreshed their site. They built up to that launch. They engineered their launch. If you look at the way Hollywood does it, Hollywood engineers their launches. They release a trailer a year in advance, and then a few months in advance, another trailer. And then a few weeks before the movie is released, all of a sudden the actors are on every podcast you could imagine. They're on every talk show you could imagine. That's the idea of a launch, of focusing all your energy, all your marketing efforts on the moment when you bring something out. And no one shows up slowly and survives because you need that momentum of that launch. We need it psychically, we need it physically, we need the cash flow of a launch. And you might think, well, they're like, what are they, the most valuable company in the world now? It's like they've got a lot of resources. They can do that kind of launch. Well, this is all about bringing you those resources. And I know that there are going to be people that are watching this this might seem like a foreign language at first. But trust me, it's all going to make sense, and it's going to make sense very, very quickly and very, very soon. Because this isn't about any magic tricks. This is about sophisticated marketing, but it's marketing that you can feel good about, that your mother would be proud of, that delivers real value in the world. A lot of people are just like, I want to create an online course, but if I just create a really great course, then I don't need to market it. People are going to find it. Or if I really create a great membership site, people are they'll find it. The reality is there's too much noise in the marketplace. I'm going to give you this formula that I first started developing 25 years ago. And when I say that, it sounds a lot more sophisticated. Way more sophisticated than it actually was, because 25 years ago, I didn't know anything about marketing, and so I sort of stumbled into this approach, and then it started to work, and I started to figure one thing out after another, after another, after another, and then eventually in the early 2000s, started teaching a few people. In 2000, released my product launch formula coaching program, and here we are. And 1 million people have been through this free training. I've had tens of thousands of people go through my paid training, and they've done $1 billion in sales. $1 billion with a B. It's absolutely crazy, insane. Well, I'm going to show you in this masterclass that formula, and I'm going to, I'm going to go deep on it. I'm going to cover a lot of ground. We're going to be spending a lot of time together. I just need you, or I request of you, that you lean in, because this is a proven formula. There's absolutely no theory. So if you want that online business and all the freedom that gives you, the income, the lifestyle, the ability to work wherever you want, whenever you want, with the people you want, with the clients you want, it's a pretty good gig. If you want to be able to make that positive impact in the world, it's a pretty amazing thing to be able to do that. You're going to meet a lot of people. Throughout this masterclass, you'll get to meet a lot of people, a lot of my students who have had success in every market, every niche, every language, every country you could imagine. It's just absolutely, it's all proven. And part of, I want to spend this week with you and not only show you how to do it, but I want to give you the inspiration to do it. Now, there's a few gotchas. First of all, this isn't get rich quick. There is work involved. Anytime you want to create something amazing in your life, especially an online business and all the benefits of that, that time, that freedom, that income, that lifestyle, that positive impact in the world, anytime you want to do that, there's going to be work involved, and there is work involved here. You'll see that. I'm going to be very upfront about that. It's not a get rich quick. It's not like I'm going to give you a button that you put on your social media and all of a sudden cash starts flying out of your phone. That's not what this is about. I'm not some dream seller. I'm selling reality to you. So caveat number one, there's work involved. It's not get rich quick. During this week, here's the caveat number 3, I will be opening registration for my Product Launch Formula coaching program. Now, make no mistake, there are many people who have gone through this free training that I'm going to deliver for this next week and just built incredible businesses, all just from this free training. However, some people want to go deep, and I'll invite them to join me in my Product Launch Formula coaching program, but we're days away from that. So a few caveats. I've got a lot of help in the background. I get to be up in front of the camera, but I've got a lot of help in the background. I've got Dan over here, who is my producer, who's really running the show for me. He'll be sort of your advocate, passing along your questions to me. I have Kristen over here. Kristen's my operations officer. She runs the show. And it's a big show these days. We've got 40 people, 40 people on my team. It's absolutely unbelievable. I was just reviewing the broadcast from a year ago, from 14 months ago, from September 2020. And at that time, I was like, we've got 30 people. I cannot believe we've got 30 people. Now we've got 40. Things are going well. We've got Joan in the background, making sure everything just happens locally here. We've got the team. Too many for me to remember or list in the answering your questions in the chat, in customer service. We do have an official mascot, first time ever, an official mascot. Maybe you'll get a chance to meet her. And yeah, so I think, Dan, did I forget anything as my intro to get us rolling?
I think we're doing pretty good. I think maybe we should just dive right in. We got a lot to get through.
Okay, and let me see. So this is my bad here. My iPad keeps on timing out. This is where I'm going to watch your comments. So I can't remember in iOS how you turn it off so the screen stops. So if someone wants to type in the comment and tell me how to turn it off, where in the settings you turn off the timeout feature. So that would be helpful to me. Oh yeah, comments. Please leave them. Energy. I need your energy in those comments. So, like I said, this is a formula. It didn't start off when I started in 1996 with me, I'm going to create a formula. But I just started to figure things out. And I created this formula, which we now call the Product Launch Formula. And it started to refine and refine and refine. After I started teaching it and have so many people giving me great ideas, when they took it and they used it and then they came back and said, Jeff, that worked really, really well. I tried this one thing and it worked, and it got codified. And now I stand in front of you as the leader, the founder of a community of thousands and thousands and thousands of people who have used this formula, have changed lives, and just made incredible impact in the world. And it's such a gift to be able to share this with you. And it all comes down to this, well, let's just say it starts with the part of the formula that we call the sideways sales letter. So we've all seen how the big companies launch, how some of the most successful companies in the world launch. You take Hollywood, and if they're coming out with a new film, they'll have trailers. It used to be one trailer, but now the trailers start a year ahead of time. And there's a series of trailers to get people excited. And then as they get closer, all of a sudden, the actors just magically are going out and doing interviews. Why are they doing interviews? Because it's part of their pre-launch. It's getting people excited before they can even go watch the movie. You look at Apple, one of the most valuable companies in the world, and they are doing multiple launches a year. They're getting people all excited about their new phone. They're getting people so excited that they're waiting in line outside the stores before it's available. How do they do that? They start teasing about that phone long in advance. Before it comes out, there's rumors, and then there's a big media event, and then there's previews, all building the anticipation. What they're doing is turning their marketing into an event. And this is the key that I've brought to this market. So I've been doing launches. So what this entire series is about is taking that power of the launch that Hollywood exploits, that power that Apple uses, and it's bringing it to businesses like yours and like mine, like little micro businesses. We can't get that media exposure they get, but we can turn our marketing into an event just like they did. And that is the Sideways Sales Letter. So the Sideways Sales Letter, I've been developing this for 25 years. I've been teaching it for 15 years. And the reason I've been doing it and teaching it for so long is it just keeps on working. This is a proven formula. It is about taking your marketing, turning it into an event so you stand out from the world, so that you stand out from all the noise, so that you stand out from everyone else in your market that's publishing. Because there's a lot of people that are publishing right now, but if you follow this formula and you build value for your people, because this is about building value. The first time when I stumbled onto this, and I did, it was an accident the first time I did it back in 1996, but I saw what worked and I kept on tweaking it and tweaking it. What works is delivering value ahead of time, but it's not just putting out some random videos, putting out some random emails, doing a random podcast. There's a formula, and that formula is the Sideways Sales Letter. So we build value, we build value, we build value, generally 3 pieces of content in your pre-launch. And your pre-launch might take place instead of putting out maybe a long form sales letter where people are scrolling through pages and pages of copy, putting that out there and hoping people see it and hoping people like it and hoping people buy it. You're going to build value over a period of time. We're going to take that Sideways Sales Letter that might be 3, 5, 10, 20, 30 pages long, and we're going to put it on its side. And your sequence, it might go for 5 days. It might go for 7 days. And over that time, you'll do 3 pieces of content. The first one is what we call the opportunity. It's showing people that there's an opportunity that they can make their life better, that they can have more pleasure or less pain. That's what, if you boil everything down to, that's what it boils down to. That they can learn to quit smoking, that they can learn to meditate, that they can learn to play guitar, that they have that opportunity, that you can show them. And when I say you're giving value, you're really teaching here. You're full out teaching in that first piece of pre-launch content. The second one is about the transformation. So if the first was a little more theoretical, that people can have this change, they can quit smoking, they can learn to meditate, the second one is about making it real for them. Again, it's real teaching, absolute real teaching. That leads into the third piece of pre-launch content, which is ownership. It's about them taking real ownership about this change that's coming in their life. And then that will eventually lead into what we call the open cart. The open cart is when people, it's your shopping cart, is what we're talking about. Opening up your shopping cart. That's when you start taking orders. That's your launch day. So your Sideways Sales Letter is your pre-launch leading up into your actual open cart where you start taking orders. And when you follow this process, and I've had thousands and thousands of students do this, and they've had over $1 billion in results. Amazing. $1 billion with a B. When you do this right, at the end of that third video, and maybe even before that, people are going to be saying, oh, it's enough already. Just take my credit card. Let me buy from you. Because you've built such value and you've delivered value that in a way, in a story arc, so that it leads into your open cart. That's what the Sideways Sales Letter does. It turns your marketing into an event. It changes you from someone that's just out there shouting, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. And it turns you into a helpful partner in their journey, where you've delivered enough value in that pre-launch that even if they don't buy from you, they still think, wow, this person's really delivered for me. I love this. But the reality is, if you do this right, a lot of them actually will buy from you, and you will stand out from the market. This is how you launch. Like I said, this is a proven formula. But the thing is, I love to teach the formula, and I love to teach the theory, and we can go deep on that, and we're going to go deep on that. But the thing I really love to do is teach from example and teach from the real world. And now I'd like to share someone with you who has done the Sideways Sales Letter out in the wild.
So my name is Lorraine Dahlmeyer, and I am the CEO of the award-winning online school Formula Botanica. We're a big online cosmetic formulation school, and we train people how to make their own natural skincare and hair care, and soon makeup, hopefully, and how to turn that into a business anywhere in the world. And we currently have almost 11,000 students in 164 countries. And we teach some of our very best content in this Sideways Sales Letter, because I want people to look at us and realize that we are the market leaders. And I can only do that by showing them how good we are. And typically what I want people to walk away with is that they think, wow, if this is the free stuff, the paid stuff must be amazing. And that's literally what happens every single time we run one of these launches. You know, the quality of the Sideways Sales Letter that we've created over many years of refining leads to people thinking, wow, this company is trustworthy, they have great social credibility, they really know what they're doing, and I want to come and study with them. So that has a phenomenal impact. And as you can see, we've got almost 11,000 students now. So it's been very, very successful for us. So yeah, it's all about just making people think, wow, if this is the free stuff, what must the paid stuff be like? And just making it a fantastic experience. I'm trying to take people on a journey. So first of all, I want them to start to think, oh, maybe I could do this as well. What's the opportunity? What's the possibility out there? And I start to sort of pique their interest by getting them to think about what it might mean to be a skincare formulator. What would that look like? And then for the next one, I really want them to start to think about, the transformation that they'll be going through, and to start to think about the ingredients they'll be using. And we're showing them different ingredients. We're getting them excited about those ingredients. And I'm giving them checklists and blueprints for making sure that they can choose the right cosmetic ingredients. And then for the third one, I really want them to already start to think, what would it be like to be a student with Formula Botanica? And there's that ownership experience where I want them to think, wow, I've learned so much from this video. This must be what it's like to be a student with Formula Botanica. And when I first went through PLF, it took me a while to fully understand what those terms meant. But now I've put it into practice, I totally get it. And it is so logical and so simple and so effective that by the time they get to the fourth video, and we show them what their future could look like. And I typically, I have a whole table filled with graduate products at that point, and I'm picking them up going, wow, this is Sam in Miami, and this is Geeta in Mumbai, and they get really excited. And at that point, we've converted people and they are ready to come and enroll with us. Now, the first time I filmed PLF, I was at my day job. I was using their conference room at the weekend. I was using the whiteboard in the conference room, just sort of writing on it. And I have refined those videos so many times over the years, to the point that last year I actually hired a professional camera crew. There were 7 of us, people following me around with mics and all sorts of cameras in my face. And I had a guy managing the teleprompter. So I've really evolved the launch masterclass that we run, this Sideways Sales Letter, over the years, to the point that it's now a huge event that we redo every couple of years. But we get phenomenal feedback. I mean, the last one we ran, we had 33,000 people take part. It was enormous and hugely successful, obviously, since we sold $1 million worth of courses. So for me, it's really about thinking about what our customers want, what they're looking for, what objections they might have, and what they want to learn from us. And that all goes into this Sideways Sales Letter and has been a huge success for us.
Okay, do you like the way Lorraine just slipped in? Oh, yeah, it's obviously successful since we sold $1 million of courses. Absolutely amazing, incredible story. She does a wonderful job. I saw someone in the comments that I'm really familiar with Formula Botanica, and that's the thing is I'll be sharing a lot of folks with you that have had a lot of success, and you can go look all of them up. They're all 100% legit, but let's get tactical on the Sideways Sales Letter. So just in a conceptual way, it's 3 pieces of content that leads into the sales process, the sales letter, the sales formula. This is what we call the open cart. So we have this period, let's go with blue here. This is called pre-launch. This is your pre-launch where you release this content. This is your pre-launch sequence. So as we dive into product launch formula, you'll see I'll be talking about sequences. And we'll also be talking about stories, and we'll be talking about triggers. Those are three really big components here, is story, sequences, and triggers. So this sequence is your pre-launch sequence. This can typically, frankly, it's compressed. It used to be 10, 11 days. It could even be 12 days. Way back, I did a launch in 2008. That was like a 27-day pre-launch. But we're in a Netflix kind of time now, and people are used to binging stuff, and the pre-launch has gotten compressed, and now it might be more like 5 to 7 days. So you'll release this content over this time. Now I'll be telling you about the content in just a sec. Then you'll get into what we call the open cart, the OC. And I'm not going to spell that out for you, but it's the open cart. So someone note that, because there will be people asking questions, and they'll be like, what's OC? And when they ask that, please type in open cart. The cart refers to your shopping cart. So this is when you actually start taking orders. And so this is a whole sequence of it unto itself. And I'll be teaching this on Sunday. In lesson 3, I'll be going deep on the open cart. So we're really not going to talk about that today. But this is the sideways sales letter. Now, when I say just super, super quick, the idea of a sales letter, some of you, many of you, most of you may not know what that is. So remember when in that opening video, and I talked about going 70 years back and studying the direct marketing legends, they used to use this thing called a sales letter. And the sales letter would be a letter. It would be a letter, and the letter might be 8 pages, 10 pages, 12 pages, 16 pages long, and it would try to sell you on a product. And it would start off with a headline up here, and then it would have some subheads and a whole bunch of copy, and then down here it would have the price. So in the early 2000s, when people were really starting to first figure out marketing online, what a lot of people did was they took that old school sales letter and they brought it online. And you would see these pages. I saw sales letters that were 50 pages long because, in the old days, people would send that out via direct mail, via snail mail. And it would cost money to print and money to mail, but when you moved online, it didn't cost any more money to write a really long letter. So people would create these super long letters. You might have seen them. And they all followed this formula, which was problem, agitate, solve. PAS. So you define the problem, maybe in the headline, and then you get people really worked up. You've tried to quit smoking, and then you make them feel really bad about that problem. It's going to kill you. It's going to kill your kids, on and on and on. You're not going to be able to see your grandkids. And then you give the solution down here, but the solution was really to give you money. And so this worked in the 2000s and even after that. And frankly, there are times where it still works, and there's times where I'll still use this. But generally, people they'll just take that scroll button and they'll scroll down to the bottom and look what the price is. And at that point, then decide whether they want to scroll back up and read it. That's the old style sales letter, as opposed to the sideways sales letter. And I say new, but really I've been teaching this for 15 years, so it's not that new anymore. But in any case, the sideways sales letter, we follow a different formula from the problem, agitate, solve. And so in this first piece of content is all about the opportunity. And no matter what you're selling, you're giving someone an opportunity to have a better life. You're either taking away pain or you're giving them more pleasure. No matter what we do, no matter what we sell, whether it's a cup of coffee or a painting or a guitar lesson, doesn't matter. We're doing one of those things. And as such, we're giving someone the opportunity to have a better life. Even if it's a subtly different, better life, we're giving them a better life. So if it is quit smoking, it's to be healthier. It's to have more energy. It's to live to see your grandkids. It's to save the money that you would spend on cigarettes. It's to not be controlled by that habit. And so there's a huge opportunity to have a better life there. If it's to have a meditation practice, Well, there's an incredible opportunity to just have a more peaceful, just a more peaceful soul, right? A more peaceful being, to treat those around you better, to be easier to be with, to be easier to be with yourself. If it's a meditation practice, if it's to learn a language, if it's to develop an exercise practice, if it's to learn, it's to train your dog, learn guitar, whatever, there's an opportunity for them to have a better life. And this first piece is where you really focus on that opportunity. The second piece is what we call the transformation. And if this one is a little more conceptual in that, yes, you could be the person that has that meditation practice. That meditation practice is amazing, and people can have a better life, and you can have a better life. In the transformation, in the second one, it's usually more of an internal focus. So this is a little bit more external focus. This is the internal. This is what your life would actually be like, would be how it would be if you could speak Spanish, if you could knit this crazy sewing, this amazing sweater. It's the transformation. It's the internal transformation. How someone's life will be different. And at the end of the day, if you take nothing away from this masterclass, but the idea that when you are selling, you need to sell the transformation. You're not selling an online course. People aren't walking around looking for, I want a course that's got, 32 modules and transcripts and this and that and the other thing. That's not what people are looking for. They're looking for meeting the love of their life. They're looking for being able to create great videos. They're looking for having a dog that comes when it's called, right? They're looking for how their life is going to change. And when you're selling something, I know we have a lot of people that you've never sold anything, you're uncomfortable with selling, you're uncomfortable with marketing. Some of you out there, in fact, leave a comment for me. Please leave a comment for me. I'm going to go refresh my comments. If you're uncomfortable with the idea of selling, if you're uncomfortable with the idea of marketing, if it just feels like a different language that you've never learned, that you had to go to school to learn that, or some people are inherently salespeople, or if you feel like maybe it's just a little bit icky, it's a little bit slimy, it's the dark side. Just leave a comment to tell me if that's you, because I know. Yeah, here we go. Julia says, yes, it's uncomfortable. Dr. Bonnie, I hate the idea of marketing. Pricing things is the worst. So this is the deal. Dr. Bonnie, I bet you're, I don't know what type of doctor you are, but you probably became a doctor because you want to help people, right? And for all of you that are now the comments are, so 30 new comments from people that are uncomfortable, and another 6 that are people that really dislike selling. The thing is if you want to get your work into the world, whether it's artwork, whether you got this idea for a course, a product, whether you're a one-on-one practitioner and you want to start working with more than one-on-one, if you want to get your work out there, if you want to help people with your work, and I know my community, and my community is driven largely by people that want to make a difference. And if you want to make a difference, you have to get people to take ownership of that change. And that's actually what this next one is. This next one is ownership. You have to get them to take ownership of that change. So that's what this third one's about. If you're not effective in marketing and selling, you're not going to be effective. Now, Dr. Bonnie, again, I don't know what type of doctor you are, but if you're in health and you're a health practitioner, yeah, I mean, one of the toughest things, because I know we have a lot of people that are working with people with their health, with their mental health, with their physical health, in every way you can imagine. That's probably 30% of the people watching this. Again, I've been doing this for years, so I know my audience. And so if you're there, you know that one of the most difficult things that if you're treating someone is compliance. It's getting them to actually follow your advice, right? Is compliance. That's part, if you want to put them on an herb program, or if you want them to be doing certain exercises every day, or certain breathing practices, or a certain diet, it's one thing to figure out what it should be and tell them. It's another thing to get them to comply. Well, when you get them to take ownership, then you're really getting them to comply. And then eventually, we're not going to talk about this today, but we're just going to let you know on Sunday, it's all about enrollment. That's the theme of PLC 4. So you got these themes: the opportunity, the transformation, the ownership. Okay, so is this making sense right now? I'm just going to go take a quick glance at the comments. They are coming in. So someone, I scrolled too fast. They said it feels invasive. Well, you know what? If you want to help someone, you got to enroll them. You have to enroll them. That's the way this works. So that was sort of, this is the formula. Now let's talk about, let's sort of make it a little more real for you. Let's say, one of my favorite examples that I often go to is guitar, learning guitar. So I actually play a little bit of guitar. I'm not all that amazing at guitar. I'm really pretty solid at buying guitars, not so great at playing them. I do okay, but I'm not a great guitar player. I came to it late in life, and I enjoy it. And when I first came out with Product Launch Formula, a lot of the guitar teachers in the space ended up signing up and learning my formula, and then they started using it, and it's everywhere in the guitar space. And I can't tell you how many Learn Guitar products I have bought from people using my formula. It's just that I can see them using the formula, but I still buy it every time. In any case, let's say one thing that happens is there's a lot more guitars that are bought than are played. It's just a phenomena. And in fact, if you're someone who you've got a guitar sitting in the corner gathering dust, and it doesn't get played, then go ahead and let me know in the comments, because it happens a lot. So let's say, I know, or there's a lot of people that can play a couple chords, maybe play a little riff here or there, but they can't actually play songs. And say you were a guitar teacher and you wanted to come out with a product on playing songs for people who own guitars but just dabble in it and can't actually play songs. So the opportunity might go something like, and you would be speaking to those people, and it'd be like, hey, if you have got that guitar sitting in the corner gathering dust, and you're sick of people coming over and seeing the guitar and asking you to play songs, or if you bring a guitar in the camp out and people say, hey, play a song, and you can't actually play songs, then I've got a training for you. And in this training, I'm going to show you how to build up a repertoire. And so the first problem that you might be having, is you might really not, it can feel so overwhelming to actually put a song together. So I've got a list of 20 songs that are simple 2-chord songs that are super easy to play, where the singing and the melody or the chords follow the melody, so it's super easy to play along and have it sound like a song. And I want to show you how to do that. And if you join my let's call it a workshop, we could call it a masterclass, let's call it a workshop, I'm going to show you how. So the first one is all about identify, all right, let's just say 20 songs. So you give them 20 songs, and you show the underlying structure of those songs, and how the chords follow the melody, and that makes it an easier song to play, and an easier song so that it sounds like a song, so people can recognize the song. So that's the opportunity, is you're showing them it's really pretty easy. If you put in 30 minutes a day working on these songs, then you're going to build up a repertoire. Okay, so that might be the first one. And then, oh, I forgot. Let me back up. Remember when I talked about that old style sales letter, and there was the problem, agitate, solve? And it's an effective formula, but it's not a very friendly formula. And frankly, in this day and age, with there being so much transparency and such a focus on authenticity and congruence, that I don't think it doesn't, as a long-term strategy, it doesn't work so well. I mean, in this day and age where everyone can see our lives, everyone can see each other's lives on social, and I think, well, frankly, I think authenticity and transparency are values that I have, but I also think they're values that you need to have these days to have a long-term business, for people to stay engaged with you for the long term. And you're going to find out as we go through the next week, everything I do is ultra long-term focus. So there is this this different formula instead of the problem, agitate, solve that I like to follow, and it's called the PS path. And PS means problem, solution. Problem, solution. So again, someone note that, and when someone asks in the comments, type help me out and type in problem solution. It's the problem solution path. And I want to thank Lisa Sasovich for giving me the naming convention around this. I appreciate this because I couldn't figure out how to articulate it, and she gave it to me. So PS path. So what you do is in this first piece of pre-launch content, you define a problem that they have. The problem is they've got a guitar and they can noodle around with playing maybe a couple riffs, or they can noodle around and play a few chords, but they can't play a song. So again, we're not trying to sell everyone in the world about everything to do about every piece of guitar playing in the world. We're thin slicing it, and that's what works in this day and age. You can reach a global audience, so you just need a tiny slice of that global audience. And so you don't want to just have how to play guitar be your course. You want to slice it down, right? I mean, you look at Lorraine, she's built this amazing business and does $1 million launches by teaching people how to create their own skincare lines. 20 years ago, that kind of business was not possible without an enormous budget to try to reach that potential audience. But these days, with this massive audience, you can thin slice your market, your niche. So instead of how to learn guitar, it's how to learn a guitar repertoire for people who own a guitar and can't play songs, right? So the problem is, first we define the problem. You can't play songs, right? And then you actually give the solution. And this might sound freaky, but something I said a little bit ago is this is all about delivering real value. It's not about this isn't about taking this long sales letter and splitting it into 4 pieces. It's completely different from this. It's about delivering real value. And then, because every problem has inherent in it the solution for the next problem, then did I say that right? Every solution has inherent in it the next problem. The cause of all problems of all time is solutions. It's just a weird thing to think about, but it's a truth. The problem, the root of all problems are solutions. If you win the lottery, problem solved, right? I don't have money, I won the lottery. All my problems are solved. No, you've got more problems coming that you haven't even anticipated yet. So, after you solve that first problem, you define you solve this problem with this solution, you define the next problem. And you say, in my next video, I am going to, I'm going to show you how to deal with that. And I have to back up and say, all of these, I'm going to talk about them like they're videos, because a lot of people do these as videos, but you can actually do this via email. And I've done many launches via email. You can do it via lives. You can do it, any type of content you can create, you can do it that way. And so you define this next problem. So let's just say the first problem was you don't know how to develop a guitar repertoire. And the first thing is, well, here's these 20 songs, and here's the basic practice routine to start. You're not going to learn 20 songs at once. You're going to learn one per whatever, and then in X amount of time, you're going to have this guitar repertoire. And I'm little caveat, I'm not a guitar teacher. I'm a good guitar buyer and an okay guitar player, but I'm not a teacher. So some of this might be messed up. Don't take this as a real marketing plan. It's a hypothetical. So then, but then the next problem is to play these songs. It's one thing to just play the chords, but to make it really sound like music, you need strumming patterns. And in my next video, I'm going to show you the strumming patterns. So you release this a couple days later, you release this one, and what do? You show your top three. You start off, you redefine that problem. You need strumming patterns to have it actually sound like music. Then you show your maybe top 3 strumming patterns. Actually teach those. So PLC2 is a really good place to go deep on actually teaching and giving them something like they feel like they've really walked away with something meaty that can change their lives. So I would suggest in this case you actually go deep on maybe it's one strumming pattern. Maybe it's the one strumming pattern and you talk about there's a couple others too. Or maybe you have time to give all 3. You give that strumming pattern. So, fantastic. But every solution has what? Every solution has what inherent in it? It's got the seeds of the next problem. Next problem could be, okay, now you know the songs, you know how to look at a song and learn a song. Now you know how to put together a strumming pattern, identify a strumming pattern and play a strumming pattern. But the tough part is singing and playing at the same time. And in my next video, I'm going to show you how to do that. So you come here. So this problem and this problem are the same. This problem and this problem are the same. So you just come here, you restate that problem, and then what do? You solve it. You could say, well, here's how to learn how to, for the first song that I gave you way back here, here's how to learn how to play and how to sing at the same time you're playing, which most people think is the hardest thing to do when you're playing, but I've got these tricks that allow you to do it, and this practice sequence that you'll just follow and you'll be able to do it. Okay, so every solution has inherent in it the next problem, right? The next problem could be, if you really want to put together a repertoire, then you need coaching and guidance every step of the way, and that's what I'm going to give you in this class, in this membership site, in this online course, in this coaching program, in these one-on-one sessions, whatever your product is that gives the ultimate solution for really building the guitar repertoire. So it's problem, solution, solve it, solve it, solve it. What are you building? What are you building? I'm going to go to the comments here. What is building as you go through here? As you continually help people with real problems and coach them through that. What is starting to develop here? What's starting to develop? I'm going to go to the comments here. Oh, and Lee wants the link for the guitar chords. Actually, we teach what we most need, right? And I've got a couple songs I can play, not very many. Yeah, Coach Hannah got it, trust. Yep, Shine Sublime, trust, exactly. You're building trust. You're building trust and credibility, Amy said. Trust and credibility, trust and credibility. Absolutely. This process works. It's not slimy. This is how a lot of times, one of the questions that I guarantee you will get at some time here is, how do I know how much content to give away so that I don't give away too much? This PS path is the formula. So you start with the end in mind. You start with, what is the course actually going to be? And then you back up and say, okay, well, how can I do a three-part PS path that leads into this offer? And it works. It builds great value. The reality is, in this world, in this business, not everyone's going to buy your product. Not everyone who follows you, not everyone who joins your email list is going to buy your product. And that's okay. You only need a few percent, 2, 3, 4, 5% of them to buy to have an incredible business. So if you just deliver amazing value in the world and people don't buy from you, fantastic. At least that's the way I look at it. I'm going to teach for the next week. I'm going to give you all kinds of material. The majority of you are not going to buy. I probably shouldn't say that. But the majority of you are going to take this and hopefully put it to work out in the world, and maybe later on come back to me and later on buy from me. That's all great. But if you just take this out into the world and create some good, so much the better. So much the better. And I suggest that's a really great thing for you to take on in your business. That's just sort of the way the world's tilting these days. But you will build that trust. And this is a much better experience for people to go through than problem, agitate, solve. So this is pretty cool. It's proven. It works. And there is one more piece that I want to layer on top of it. And that one more piece that will take this to the next level is what we call the mental triggers. So let's talk about the mental triggers. So product launch formula has been proven over time. I've been teaching this for 15 years. I've taught this masterclass, some form of this masterclass, to over 1 million people. So this is proven over time. This formula will continue to work. It's been working, it will continue to work. But one of the things that makes it absolutely future-proof is the mental triggers. Because there are things that, the mental triggers are factors that affect our thinking, that affect our decision-making. And they are present in all of us. And they've been present in all of us for thousands of years. And my prediction is they will be present in all of us for thousands of years to come. I'm talking about things like community. In fact, before we even get there, I've identified 18 of these triggers, and I cover the 18 in the Product Launch Formula coaching program. In this masterclass, I'm going to cover 6 of my favorite ones. I'm talking about things like community, like scarcity, like social proof, like authority, like anticipation, and reciprocity. So let me give you a couple of examples here. So social proof. This is the idea that, well, remember when your mom said, boy, if everyone else would jump off a bridge, would you jump off a bridge? The reality is you probably would, because we all look to other people for cues on how we should act. So let me tell you how this might show up in your world. And let's go on a time journey. Back before you had Yelp on your iPhone or your smartphone, back before you could pull up reviews in an instant, and you're driving through a strange town and you're hungry and you want to eat, and there's 2 restaurants on the side of the road, and like where I live in Colorado, sometimes you're driving and you go through these tiny little towns and there might only be 2 restaurants, and one restaurant has no cars out in front of it whatsoever. Looks like a complete ghost town. The other one has like 6 cars parked in front of it. Now, which one are you going to go to? Are you going to say like, wow, now that one, I could get in really quickly. Or you're going to say, well, that one's got 6 cars out in front. Those people must know something. I'm going to go there. Most of us would take those social cues, those cues that other people are at that restaurant. It must be a good restaurant. In fact, I mentioned Yelp. Those reviews on Yelp, those reviews at Amazon, those are forms of social proof. We look for other people and how they're acting as a clue for how we should act. This is present in every one of us. Now, some of us have it some of us are influenced by certain triggers more than others, but all of us look to others to see how we act. If you get off the plane in a strange airport and it's late, and this is pre-COVID, when we used to fly, and the airports used to be all crowded, but maybe it's 11 p.m., you're getting off, it's a strange airport, you've never been at this airport, you get off and there's 50 people getting off the plane in front of you, and those 50 people all walk and they turn to the right. And maybe you walk out and you'll probably just turn to the right and follow all of them as well. Now, eventually you'll look for the signs that say, where's baggage claim? Or where do I go to get my rental car? But initially, if 50 people all walk out and turn to the right, you're probably going to walk out and turn to the right as well. Now, in this masterclass, I'm going to show you how you can use social proof in your launch. And it's incredibly powerful, especially when we layer it on top of the sideways sales letter. Another trigger would be authority. If we perceive someone as an authority, we're going to pay more attention to them. We're just going to give whatever they say more credence if we see them as an authority. You go to see a doctor, new doctor, you've never seen this doctor before, they walk in with a white coat. That white coat is just a piece of fabric on them, but it conveys authority on them. There's all kinds of ways to build authority in your launch, and you're going to see it. In fact, right here in this masterclass, here, what are we? I don't know. We're in our first hour, but have I already displayed my authority? Have I shown myself to already be credible? When you put these mental triggers into your launch, it just takes everything to the next level. I'm going to be showing you in this masterclass. So again, enough theory. Let's go to a real-world example of how this actually works.
My name's Kate B. I'm the founder of the Sober School, and I help women who want to quit drinking alcohol. I have a 6-week online course that guides them through early sobriety and feeling really good about being sober. So I've been doing PLF style launches for a few years now, and when it comes to the mental triggers, I think these really help my launches, and there's a couple of different things I use. So the first one is authority. I talk a bit about my story and the fact that I got into all of this because I also struggled with my drinking, but I've now been sober for 7 years. So that alone, I think, puts me in a position of authority. But I'm also able to talk about the fact that I've been running my course for several years now, and I've helped over 2,000 women quit drinking. And I like to weave lots of different case studies into my pre-launch material. So I'm really showing what I've been able to do through my course and what I've helped people achieve. I think the other big mental trigger for me is probably community. My audience are women. They're smart, educated, healthy. Their lives look great on the outside, and they struggle a lot with feeling alone. I get so many women come to me who think they're the only women on the planet feeling like this. So a really big part of my work and my launch each time is showing women that they're not alone. And during my pre-launch videos and the community that I get to create around that event and in the comment section underneath each video, I get to give these women a taster of what it's like to be in a community and to see their stories reflected in other people, because that's really powerful. Addiction thrives in isolation, as does shame, which is a massive barrier to change. So I get to show them what it's like to no longer be on their own with this. And then, of course, my actual program, my online course, that gives them that community on an even bigger scale. So it all ties in really nicely. A couple of other mental triggers that I use are controversy, because my online program's very different to traditional 12-step programs. And I'm very clear about that. And in fact, that helps draw people to me, because often they're looking for something really different, but it's still quite controversial to be so different from such an established program. I think reciprocity is a massive mental trigger as well. I used to be worried about giving away too much in my pre-launch videos. I thought I was giving away the farm. And one of my videos is actually a blueprint to my, overall approach to sobriety and feeling good about alcohol-free living. I really go into a lot of detail, and people really, really appreciate that. And they can still see that actually, if they take my course, it's quite a different experience, because I'll be holding their hand as we go through everything step by step. But hey, if they don't choose to continue the journey with me, they're still getting massive value out of what I'm sharing with them. And the other huge mental trigger that I see as being very effective is scarcity. And this isn't something that I manufacture, it just is there. I run my course a couple of times each year, and everyone starts the class on the same day. So once the pre-launch sequence is done and we're into open cart, then I have a really hard deadline coming up, because registration's closing and the course starts the very next day. So people have to make a decision, and I think we're all human, and sometimes we need a bit of motivation into doing that. So those are the mental triggers that really work for me. And this year, in July, in the middle of this strange year, this pandemic year, all this stuff combined to create my most successful launch ever. I had my first ever 6-figure launch. My course sells for just over $500, and I did $124,000 in sales this July. So yeah, this stuff really works.
So my name is Lorraine Dahlmeyer, and I am the CEO of the award-winning online school Formula Botanica. We're a big online cosmetic formulation school, and we train people how to make their own natural skincare and hair care.
Okay, so a little bit of mixing slip up there. That's okay. We're gonna have to give Dan a hard time over that. And we have our mascot here, and so we have. I've never been a cat person. We've never been a cat family. Don't back up there, sweetheart. But this is a rescue that came, literally rescue from the side of the highway. We're guessing she's 8 weeks old now. We got her when she was tiny, like half this size. When she was 4 weeks, my son rescued her, driving through Utah in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere, and there she was at 4 weeks, or we're guessing about 4 weeks on the side of the road. So this is Nugget, our mascot, and she's been, like I said, I've never had a cat in my life, never even held a cat, but what a sweetheart she is. She's won us all over. So she's running around the floor during our masterclass. So Kate, how about that? $124,000. She slipped in a bonus trigger for you that we'll talk about in just a minute. So these triggers are powerful, and they are powerful to use in your marketing, but they're powerful. Once I go through these, and you'll start to see them, and you'll see them everywhere. And they're just great for creating influence anywhere in your life. I mean, if you want to, if you want to get married, if you want to find the love of your life, if you want your kids to follow to do what you ask them to do, these triggers are super powerful. So I talked about authority already there on that video. Authority is incredibly powerful. This idea of we see someone in an area of authority, we will tend to follow them. You know, a doctor with their white coat walks in a room, and that white coat's like, oh my gosh, I should listen to what they're saying, right? Uniforms are great for authority, but teaching and publishing are great for authority. Like, have I, at this point, convinced you that that I'm a credible person? That do I have authority at this point? I think by now I'm guessing I've got some amount of authority with you. Then the other one I think I talked about was social proof. If you see a lot of people are doing something, are following something, are interested in something, reviews on Amazon, right? That's social proof. Reciprocity. If you give something to someone, reciprocity. If you give something to them, they will be inclined to give something back to you. Now, in my family, I grew up, we celebrate Christmas. And, a big part of Christmas, a big part of the Christmas tradition is gift giving. And like, if someone 4 o'clock on Christmas Day and knock on the door, your neighbor comes over and they've got a gift for you, do you feel excited that you're going to get a gift? No, you feel horrible because you don't have a gift for them. That idea that they're giving something to you, you want to give something back to them. That's reciprocity. It's a very powerful, powerful trigger. Anticipation. Anticipation. It's very dangerous to be writing, to be spelling on camera. Spelling and proof and math on camera are really, really scary. And people, we love to look forward to things. We naturally look forward to things. And if you build up the anticipation, it just creates great influence and it captures people's attention. Community. Very, very powerful trigger. We act in accordance with the norms of the community that we belong to. So, I grew up in a suburb in Michigan where everyone had nice lawns. That was just sort of the thing you do, was you kept a nice lawn in front, grass in front of your house. My dad spent a lot of time on that lawn. I don't know that he did it just because he loved growing grass. I think he did it at least partially because that was the thing you did if you belonged in that, if you lived in that community. And then scarcity. And I saw someone type that in the comments. Kate was talking about the scarcity, like I teach this class once a year. And if you want to get in, now's the time to get in. Someone picked up on that in the comments. That scarcity, when there's less of something, it's naturally attractive to us. We naturally, our ears perk up. Oh, there's only, a few of those left. Oh, well, I better really think about it. Now it's the time to think about it. So these mental triggers, and Kate mentioned her bonus trigger over here was controversy. And there are a lot more than these triggers, but these are 6 of my favorite. And she used controversy, and she talked about how she used that in her launch. It can be very, very powerful. So now if we take those triggers and we layer them on top of the sideways sales letter and the PS path, let's talk about how they can land here. So early on in PLC1 is a great place for authority. And I saw there's a comment, someone wrote a comment and they said, if I'm just starting out, how can I have authority? And one of the ways is, have I developed authority here from teaching for the last hour? Now, yes, I showed you Lorraine and the results she had, and Kate and the results she had. But even if we took those parts out, that's just like icing on the cake. We could take those parts out, and just having taught this piece, did that develop authority? So there's many, many different ways to develop authority and to borrow authority. Like in a way, like early on, I talked about Apple and how they do their launches. That's a way of borrowing the authority of another brand, right? So there's many ways to develop authority, but my favorite is by publishing and by doing this sideways sales letter. And if you follow this formula, the thing is if you can articulate someone's problem or someone's pain as well as they can or better than they can, they'll instantly and automatically assume that you have massive authority. So let that sink in. If you can articulate someone's problem or someone's pain as well as they can or even better than they can, they'll instantly assume you've got the solution, that you've got the authority. So you don't need to have a lot of results to have authority. My first business was not teaching marketing. I did this stuff for 8 years before I started teaching marketing. My first business was about the stock market. It was telling people what I thought was going to happen in the stock market. And I had no letters after my name. I wasn't a stockbroker, a registered investment advisor, a commodity trading advisor. I had no letters, no official credentials. But I just started publishing. And in that publishing, and I did it via email, I sent a free email newsletter. And just by sending that free email newsletter, people assumed, and the fact that it was like cogent and logical and well written, they just assumed I had the authority. They gave me that authority. Okay, so put in authority. Then reciprocity. You just gave them a great first lesson, and you're going to keep on doing that all the way through. So you're going to develop reciprocity all the way through. Just by, instead of that problem, agitate, solve, which torques people off, might make some sales but irritates them, what you're doing is you're defining their problems so they instantly feel like you're connecting with them, and then you're solving them. So you're getting reciprocity throughout there. Then there's community. So usually in these, we'll have comments. If it's a video down below or if it's a live, you'll have comments. And you'll start to develop a community. I can actually see that already happening in your comments. As I'm watching these comments come flying through, I'm seeing you're starting to answer each other's comments. So you start to build this community as you go through. So we had authority, reciprocity, scarcity. So we're going to put scarcity over here. When you do a launch, it has to have a beginning and an end. The launch has to have an end to it, right? And so it's either at the end, like Kate, she's like, okay, you have to buy from me or else, you can't get in. I do this class once a year or twice a year. And so that's scarcity. You have to buy now or else you can't get in. Now, you don't have to pull the product off the market. Kate does it like I do, a college class. Here's a class, registration is this time, then class starts on this time, and we do this, and if you miss that, then you have to wait until this time to join. You can do it, but there's other ways to create the scarcity, and we'll talk about that in lesson 3. So let's see, anticipation. So in between each one of these, remember, you're saying, here's your next problem, and in the next video, or live, or email, or podcast, whatever it is, you're going to solve the next problem. So that's anticipation. You're building anticipation for each one of these segments as you go through. So let's see, what did I forget? That was anticipation, reciprocity, community. Did I talk about social proof? I talked about social proof. Social proof down in these comments. All these people, social proof from having the comments, the interaction, the obvious, people are excited about what you're doing. So I talk about community, scarcity, social proof, participation, reciprocity, authority, and I'm not, you can put controversy in. It's not something I don't tend to go to controversy like Kate did, but when you put these triggers in, it makes you inherently influential, and they make you attractive. And I'm not talking about it like physically attractive. They're making you like an attractive person that people want what you have. And what you have will eventually lead into this sale right here. So I know we've got a lot of questions coming in, and I wanted to answer some of those questions. Before, Dan, I'm assuming you've got a bunch over there for me.
Sure do.
Before we do that, I do want to remind you, at some point in this broadcast, we will have the super secret segment. I will tell you when it starts. We'll have a super secret segment that you only you, since you're live with me, will see. It'll get cut out of the recording, so the people will not see it in the recording, and it's just my extra bonus for you for being here live with me. So thanks for being live. We do have an after-hours segment coming up that's going to be in the Facebook group. So on this page, I think in this corner up here of the page, there's a link to the Facebook group. And if you're not already in it, you should join it after the broadcast. And in that Facebook group, Barry and Dorothea and JT will be doing an after-hours party, answering even more questions. I forgot, we also have a scroll cam, because we often, you want to show them the scroll cam, Dan? Often, there we go, scroll cam. Often we have wildlife showing up on our deck out there, so we just thought we'd have a little fun. And it's directly in my line of sight. Like when I'm looking at you, looking at the camera, looking at you, that window is right there. It's fully in my line of vision. So when there's a squirrel playing around and I get distracted, at least I can tell you why I'm getting distracted, and you can see the squirrel. So Dan, you got some questions for me?
We sure do. We've got a whole bunch of questions. I thought, so how about for this first one here, I'm going to combine a whole bunch of people's questions. So we've got a lot of people asking, like, okay, this obviously works with online training, or if you're teaching people how to build a business, does this work in this sort of market? Does it work in other markets? So we've got people asking if it works for launching a book, people asking about launching a virtual summit, people who are, someone has a painting business, someone has physical products, someone's a freelance copywriter. We've got all kinds of different markets here. Can you just give some examples of how this works in some other sorts of markets?
Yeah, so I know that this is the number one question that comes up. And like I said, I've been doing this for since 2005 now. It's been a long time. So this is the number one question. Will it work for me? And it absolutely makes 100% sense. It's like, okay, well, that sounds like great theory, and you showed me how it works for if you're working with women who want to quit smoking, and if you want to teach people how to create a skincare line. I get how it works for those, but will it work for me? Great question. And the answer is almost assuredly. Unless you have like a true commodity business where you're selling like sand, or an emergency business like ambulance services or bail bondsmen, something like that, those it's not going to work for. But pretty much everything else, it works really, really well. And I will, during this masterclass, I've already shown you Kate and Lorraine. I will be releasing a page with 80 full case studies on it. And they're all kinds of markets that you can't, some markets you've never even heard of, some types of products and services you've never even heard of. They're going to be from around the world, different languages. Yes, it will work. So books, absolutely works for books. Have you ever heard of a book launch? There's a reason there's launch parties for books. If you don't take control of your marketing for your book, then it's not going to sell. So a lot of people, you can either be self-published or trade published, right? And trade published means published by some publisher. And if you're trade published, a lot of people think their publisher's going to do the marketing. They're not. You have to sell it. So whether you're self-publishing or trade published, you need to do the marketing. And this process, there are some tweaks, there are some changes to this, but this basic formula absolutely works for books. And I've had just so many people use it for books, it's absolutely crazy. Then what was some of the other ones, Dan?
Oh, let's see. We had about physical products. We had services.
Services, yes. So this will absolutely work for services. Now, again, I've done this so many times. This is where people fall into my world. When they come into my world, they're either, I don't have any business whatsoever, and I don't have a product, I don't have a following or a list of people following me, I don't have an email, I have nothing, I'm starting from scratch. And so we've got those folks, and it works for you. And in lesson 2, not lesson 2, but lesson 2, I'll be sharing how it works for you. Then there's the people that come in and they're like, I have a business, I've got an online business, but and I've got an email list, I've got a following, I've got products. Will it work for me? Or I've already launched, will it work for me? I saw that question in the comments. I've already launched. If you already have a business and you already have an offer and you already have a following or an email list, then this is money in the bank. This is like, you're going to probably have the best week of business ever when you do this. You just create a slightly different offer, you add a new bonus, you come out with a new version, and then you launch it. Apple just launched their MacBooks. Apple just launched their iPhone. They did a full launch for their iPhone. What was it, the iPhone 13? It's the iPhone 13. It's not the first iPhone ever, but they still did a full launch, and they sold a ton of phones, right? So you always need to be launching. Otherwise, you're just leaving money on the table, you're leaving sales on the table, you're leaving impact on the table. And so those are 2 categories. Another category is authors. Book authors, absolutely works. Another one is one-on-one practitioners. And actually, I'm going to come back to one-on-one, since that's the thing we're talking about, Dan. One-on-one, so remind me to come back to one-on-one. One-on-one practitioners, you have a health practice, you help people, you counsel them, you're a trainer, you work with people one-on-one. Big, huge, probably a third of my PLF owners are in that category. Then there's artists, and this absolutely works for art. And then there's people that are just like, they fall in love with this launch process, and they want to help people with their launches. So coming back to the one-on-one service, like I said, this makes you incredibly attractive. It gives you massive authority and reciprocity, and people will want to buy from you. Now, if you only want to get more one-on-one clients, this will do it. In fact, you will end up having a problem of you'll probably have too many clients. And at that point, you could raise your prices, but really what I would encourage you to do is eventually move from one-on-one to one-to-many, or one to small groups. And that starts to give you leverage in your income, because if you're working one-on-one, you only have so many hours you can work. So you can do a simple calculation on your phone, and just pull out the calculator. You know exactly how much money you can make in a year if you're working one-on-one. But if you start to work with small groups, and then eventually, this is a well-trodden path. You go from one-on-one to one to small groups, one to many, and then an online course. And then you build a business with true leverage, with true time freedom, where you can make more money without working more hours. So absolutely works for one-on-one. What was some of the others? Physical product. It works for physical products. I'm going to be showing you examples of using it to sell yarn. One of my first ever case studies was using it to sell a board game. I've got a case study for you using it to sell steak and seafood. Steaks and seafood. Absolutely works. Basically, what you're telling the story of your product as you go through here. Often you're adding some digital bonuses or digital assets to the whole mix, but it absolutely works for physical products.
Awesome. Okay, cool. What about artists?
It works for art. I'll show you an example of Mary Gilkerson, who sells paintings, and she creates collections and sells out the collections within a matter of a few days. And these are not inexpensive. She has smaller paintings that if my memory serves, are somewhere between $500 and $1,000. And then your bigger paintings, I think, are well over $10,000 if my memory serves. I've done a lot of case studies, so I don't have perfect memory on all of them, but I think her larger paintings, and she'll create a collection and sell out of it, boom. And Mary's often here in the comments with us. I don't know if she's here right now, but yeah, absolutely works for artwork.
Awesome. Okay, let's move on maybe. Okay, cool. How about this question? And this one will be quick because I know that you'll get into this later, but I thought this was a cool thing just to mention. Teresa's asking, do you need to have your product already completed before you are marketing it? Kind of like a Hollywood movie analogy.
Yeah, so I'll be teaching you the seed launch in tomorrow's lesson. So the seed launch, back when I said we have this way, for the people that are just starting out and you don't have a product, it's perfect. It's the way you create a product, and crazily enough, you can actually sell it before you create it. And if that sounds weird, but you will actually get better results that way. Better results in your marketing, but better results in the product will be better for having sold it ahead of time. So the seed launch, and I'm going to spend a lot of time on seed launch, focus and go through it in depth tomorrow. So be there for tomorrow for lesson number 2, which is all about the 3 types of launches, and the seed launch is one of those 3 types.
Awesome. How about this one? This one's from Hope. Hope's asking, given how much noise is out there, how do you get people to see, read, click on your sideways sales letter? Do you show people how to get that attention in this masterclass?
Well, this is how you stand out, and this is how you get attention. And Hope, you're right. There is an incredible amount of noise. Let's face it. We're in like coming into 2 years now of this pandemic, and everyone went online, right? Initially, that's all anyone did. That's all we could do was Netflix and online, and a lot of people lost their jobs. And so frankly, there's never been a better time for online business. It's sort of a delicate thing to say. It's a little easier to say it now than a year ago. But last September when I did my masterclass, I had to be very delicate. And it's like, yes, there was an incredible amount of pain. There was financial pain. There was psychic pain. There was physical pain. There was emotional pain. The pandemic, horrible thing, but it was really good for online business. And the world just tilted towards online business, and it tilted towards online education. And so what happened is a lot of people went online, right? They lost their jobs, so they started online businesses. And so there got to be more competition. That's the reality. But there's also more people online buying stuff because that's what's happened in the last year and a half, especially online education and training. The world is tilted in our direction, or at least in my direction and that of many of my students. I'll tell you, 80%, I would say, of my students are doing some type of online training, teaching, coaching. The others are either physical products or their services or their artwork, but probably 80%, it's just a guess, probably about 80% of my folks have some type of teaching, training. It could be a course, it could be a membership, it could be a mastermind, it could be a workshop, it could be a summit. There's so many more buyers because online self-education has become the new norm. So it's a noisier environment, but it's a bigger environment. And you stand out with the sideways sales letter. So Hope, it's a noisy environment, right? It's a super, super noisy environment, but somehow you ended up signing up for a launch masterclass. And here you are right here. I'm just I follow my own teaching. You guys might notice that. I follow my own teaching. I eat my own cooking. And so right now, we're sitting here in the first piece of my launch, because this launch masterclass is my launch for my product launch formula coaching program. So somehow you found your way here, right? Every one of you found your way. It's a noisy environment. Probably the noisiest environment out there is the environment of teaching people online entrepreneurship. It is like not the biggest, but it's the noisiest. And yet you found your way here, and we're an hour and 33 minutes into this, and you're still here with me because I'm following the formula, and this formula is so attractive. That's the answer.
I love this one. This is funny. Just speaking of, eating your own cooking here. Right after you mentioned the seed launch, we had someone who popped in. And he's like, "Did Jeff just use anticipation there?"
100%. So, I mean, you guys want to play a game? You want to play a game that I've never actually done this. And these comments, my comments are about, I think about 10 seconds delayed between when you type and when, so it's going to be tougher, but we could play a game here. Let's spot the mental triggers. Just because, yeah, I'm willing to show you my dirty laundry, because the reality is this stuff is so powerful. And I know a bunch of you are going to join me in my coaching program. So here we go. This was authority. So how did I show authority? How did I show authority so far today? How did I show authority? And I'm going to, I do have.
We got about a 10-second delay
It's about
here
a
from
10
when
second
we
delay.
say something to
So-
when it goes live. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's about a 10-second delay from when, so you type in your comments right away, and then I'll see them a few seconds later. So Anne, she got it. What was, at the very beginning of this broadcast, what was the first words I said? It was actually in the opening video. In the opening video, the first words I said was, "It's been 25 years since I started my online business." Like, is there some authority there, right? And then further in the video, it said, then in the early 2000s, I started to get the calls. People wanted my help. They wanted my formula. So it's been 21 years since people started asking me for help. In 2005, I came out with my product launch formula. That was just in the first 90 seconds of that video. Like I said, I follow my own formula all the way through here. Authority, 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 right? I've had 1 million people go through here. I've had $1 billion in results. Now, when you're watching, please you don't have to be in business 25 years for you to create authority, right? I'm just showing you how I followed my formula. We all will have a different way. This formula works. It absolutely works, but we'll all use it a different way depending on our personality, our market, where we are in our lives, where we are in our business, right? I'm just showing you how I did it. We all have different paths, because you don't need 25 years in business to develop authority. I'm just showing you, we're doing a little thought exercise of what I did. Okay, reciprocity. What have I done for reciprocity? I mean, what am I doing here for reciprocity? And I'll take a drink while I wait for this 8-second delay. It's amazing how long 8 seconds is when you're waiting for comments to come in.
Here we got someone who's already ahead of you. Graham saying, "Reciprocity, I already want to learn more from you. How did I get to do that?"
Yeah, and so that's more, I would call that really probably a little more anticipation that you want to learn more. I think reciprocity makes us want to add comments. No, but how did I develop? There we go. Dr. Bonnie, who's getting all the shout outs today, said, you're giving away a free class. Sarah said, free class. Carol Smile, giving away the farm. Sorry if I mangled your name, I'm sure I did. Giving away the class. Okay, let's see, what else did we have? Let me go back. So that was
We got a little social proof going on, I think.
social proof. How do we get social proof? What was this? Where did I get social proof? And actually, so just type social proof and tell me how I developed that. Then community and how I developed that. That'll cut our 8-second delay here a little bit. Reciprocity, there we go. Student success stories is social proof. That's definitely a form of social proof. Case study videos, social proof. Facebook group, absolutely. And community for Facebook group. Yep. There's the social proof. There we go. Dave got it. The chat. You see all these. You're not the only person watching this, right? You can see all the people making comments All the people that are here attending, that is social proof. So I absolutely follow my own formula. And I've been following this formula for 25 years. Why? Because it works. Because it works. That's why I follow it. So, yeah, I think we've sort of pounded that one into the ground.
Well, so we've had a bunch more questions come in, but given that we are going to come back to questions here after we share a few more stories, should we move along maybe?
Okay. So that sounds, yeah. Dan's my producer. He's keeping me on track. So what I wanted to do now is I wanted to go to a case study, and I love this one. I recorded this one a year ago. So like I said, I'm going to release 80 of these, more than 80 of these for you. But this one is one of my absolute favorites. So I'm going back to an oldie that's all of about 12 months old. And this one is with Anne La Follette. Absolutely remarkable story. So I'm here with Anne La Follette, and Anne has just started about a year ago and has a great story to tell us. So Anne, could you just tell us a little bit about your business and what's happened in the last year?
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here and to share a little bit about my story. I actually had a long corporate career, and I worked at giant companies like the Gap and Old Navy, and I thought I would retire. I was very much of that corporate kind of drone, going to work, working 24/7 for the man. And one day, my boss called me into his office and told me, "We're eliminating your job and go talk to HR." And it came as a complete shock. I thought I was going to retire with the gold watch or whatever people get now when they retire. But you know what? It was a blessing in disguise. And so about a year ago, I started to explore my creative side. I had a huge box of creative supplies, art supplies in the basement. My husband and my wonderful son encouraged me to bring those supplies up from the basement and start to explore. And I found this thing called surface pattern design. And the best way to explain what that is that you can turn your doodles into dollars. And what I mean by that is you can take a little drawing that you have and then turn it into what's called a repeating pattern and put it on wrapping paper or wallpaper or fabric or on the cover of a notebook, the back of your iPhone case, a million products. And so that is now my passion. And I teach that through an online course, which I launched using the product launch formula. And that's what I've really been focused on over the last year is growing my email list, finding my perfect customer, and then selling them my course using the product launch formula.
So one of the fun things about my work is I get to hear about these markets and niches and hobbies that I didn't know existed. So when you first wrote in and said it was surface pattern design, I admit I went to Wikipedia. I was just like, what is this? But you've turned it into a real business. So you just mentioned your list. And tell me about the list that you had when you started out.
So when I started in about April of last year, I had 25 people on my email list. And I have to tell you, Jeff, that 3 of those people were me because I had 3 different email addresses at the time, including my old corporate email address. And then I had at least, 10 family members. So I think I really only had people that I didn't sort of know, maybe 3 to 5 people that I didn't even know. And so I definitely felt like, oh my gosh, I have no list. How am I even going to get started? And I just, right now, I can't even believe I'm going to say this, but I have 10,000 people on my email list, and it's about a year and a half later. And so if I could go from having 25 people on my email list to having, a year and a half later, having 10,000, clearly anyone can do it if you kind of follow a formula and make sure that you are, finding the right people and talking to those people as best you can. And I do that through my weekly blog.
Wow. Well done. It's amazing. And I don't know the size of your market or your niche, but it seems like it's not vast. It's not yoga or something, that's just that cats or whatever. I mean, that seems like a fairly small market to build a list of 10,000. So congratulations.
Yeah, I think that what it is it's more, the way I like to think about it is that my sort of ideal customer avatar is someone who's sort of in my age cohort, and they were told in school that they had no creative bone in their body and they should just give up on art. And now they're in their 40s or 50s or 60s and they realize, that probably was baloney, and to use a PC term. And I actually really do want to explore my creativity. And so why don't I join Anne's creative community and learn how to turn my doodles into these beautiful designs, or my grandson's doodles into beautiful fabric that I can then turn into a baby blanket. The sky's the limit in terms of what you can do with your creativity. And so I think that while I specifically teach surface design, I think my audience is a little broader than that in terms of people who want to tap into their creativity at this stage in their life.
Mm-hmm. And so what happened? So you came into my world, and then what happened?
So I came into your world, and I am a very good student. And so I watched every single video. I did every single workbook. I wanted to really kind of unlock how I would use your product launch formula in my community. And so my first launch was 3 videos, but I did them as live broadcasts on Facebook. And one of the things that I continue to dive into with my audience is they need a lot of hand-holding. They're not technologically savvy. I was not technologically savvy either. So they need a lot of hand-holding. And so instead of recording a video, I am live on Facebook, and I teach them a little bit of something, kind of a little bit of an introduction to, well, what even is this thing called surface design? Then I give them a couple of days off. I come back and I do my second live broadcast, which is sort of your, PLF or PLC2. Then a couple more days off when they have a chance to practice. Then I come back and we do some stuff actually on the computer. And then the outcome I want for them is to actually make a really simple repeating design inside Adobe Illustrator before I then talk to them about, if you want to go deeper, I have this incredible course, and I'd love you to buy my course and go deeper with me, where we'll be together for 8 weeks.
And so tell me about your first launch.
So my first launch, I was super, super nervous. I had just finished my course. It was a 6-week course. I know other people who are in my industry who charge about $1,000 for their programs that are around, 8 weeks or 10 weeks long. So I priced it at $497. And I also had a 6-month $97 price point because I thought that would be more potentially accessible for people. And I did the whole formula, and then I had a 4-day open cart, and super interesting. The whole psychology of managing your own emotions during open cart is crazy. Because some people come in early and then there's all this silence and it's like, oh my gosh, is another person gonna buy? Is another person gonna buy? But anyway, my results were really good. I mean, my first launch, I took a couple of numbers just to make sure I could look at them with you. But my 6-week course launch was priced at $497. I got 27 people to buy. And so I made almost $13,000.
Well done. How big was your list at that point? So you had that 25, which really was 22, but it was really only probably 4 or 5 people.
Yeah, exactly. So at the beginning of last year, because I did this launch in January of this year, I did this launch in January, and I think my list was probably around 2,500 people, and I made people opt into an actual sort of freebie so that I would have a subset of people who were really going through this seriously, and there were only 850 people on that list. So I think that my conversion rate was around 8%,
wow.
If I'm remembering the math correctly, which I was really pleased with. And I definitely feel like it's a lot of the hand holding was a major contributor.
Mm. So what I like about you, Anne, is you just like you said, you're a student. I'm going to study this. I'm just going to move forward. I'm not technical. I'm going to figure it out. What was it like doing those live broadcasts? What's it like being on camera? You're like me, you didn't grow up being on video and on camera your entire life. So what was
For sure. For sure. I mean, I think that one of the things that you recommend is you have to practice a lot, right? So what I had been doing as I was building my business last year was coming on Facebook once a week. I write a blog and then I talk about it on Facebook. And so, nobody would show up. Nobody would show up, but I would still be talking to the green dot. And I would be getting comfortable with like, okay, how organized do I need to be? Am I looking at notes? Am I not looking at notes? And I basically sort of broke myself in, for lack of a better description, in terms of getting comfortable on camera. And then, then somebody would show up. And the first couple of people who showed up were relatives, which was so sweet of them. And so one of my cousins in Indianapolis comes on still like every week on Wednesday when I'm live on Facebook. She's the sweetest of ever. And, but that's how I basically got comfortable on camera. It was like, okay, I just have to do it every single week. And so I had done it probably for about 6 months every week before I did my PLCs.
Nice. And so that first launched approximately $13,000. And then what happened after that? Walk me forward, because this is all just happening. You got
it's all just happening. Yes, it's all very, very much just happening. So I just launched again in May. So I wanted to make sure I gave my community a nice long breather. I didn't want to be sort of inundating them with, with salesy emails. I'm always a little bit nervous about just, how you make that transition from giving a ton of free value, but then also asking for the sale. So I wanted to give them a nice long break, and I decided that May would be a good time frame because then it would lead kind of into the summer. So I got fantastic feedback from the first group of students, right? So I had about 27 students in that first cohort, and they gave me amazing feedback. They said the course is too short. You got to make it 8 weeks because it's like drinking from a fire hose. You gotta do some simplification and also make it a little longer. So I did that, and I increased the price to $997, which was a really, really big deal for me because one of my mentors in this space, who I absolutely adore, whose name is Bonnie Christine, she has an 8-week course that she charges $997 for. And so I just felt like I had to respect myself and the work that I'd put into this course and say, okay, I'm going to be in that same cohort. So I did that in May, and I made $42,000. Jeff, I made $42,000. I got 50 people, which was my goal. I had set a goal that I wanted to basically almost double the number of students, and so I got 50 people in, and I did provide a couple of discounts here and there. I'm sort of learning about when people from Canada or Australia are complaining about the exchange rate. It's like, ooh, I felt bad about it, so I gave them some discounts. But in any event, at the end of the day, I got 50 people, $42,000, and my rate, my conversion was still around 4.5%. It was at a much higher price point. It's about 4.5%, which I was really, really happy with. And so my goal for this year was to hit $100,000, and I am on track to do that because I'm going to have one more launch before the end of the year.
Wow. What does it feel like to basically step out of that corporate world and have no experience, not be super technical? I'm guessing you're probably in your corporate career, you weren't a salesperson. You don't strike me as like a super slick salesperson. What does it feel like to just all of a sudden be able to create this, and in their first full year in business, you're closing in $100,000?
It's like I am a different person. I am filled with such incredible joy and with such incredible sense of empowerment. And it's been transformative with my whole family. I mean, my husband sees a different me. My son sees a different me. My parents and my family. I mean, I wake up in the morning and I cannot wait to do whatever the next thing is I need to do. First of all, I love teaching. I do come from a family of teachers, and so it's like, why didn't I become a teacher sooner? But I love teaching. I am an introvert, so I love teaching this way, so I'm not surrounded by a bazillion people. They're on the other side of the green dot. And I love my community. My community are just amazing women who are all learning so much, and learning is such an empowering experience. When you put something into your brain, no one can take it away from you. It's yours forever. And everyone's journey is different. So what they want to do once they learn this skill, first of all, they're incredibly talented. And so that is so incredibly inspiring. And they are all doing something different, and there's room for all of us. There's just room for all of us, even though this is a really niche-y space. So it's transformative, and it fills me with joy every single day. I just feel so incredibly blessed that this is my baby now. This is my baby, and no one can take this baby away from me. And I love every minute of it, even when I'm messed up with a Facebook ad, or even if it's like something is not connecting properly on my website. It's like, you know what, I can figure it out. I can figure it out, and if I just slow down and take it, baby steps, and keep learning, just keep learning, I am going to do just fine.
I just love it. I love your approach, your energy. And so one of the things you said when we first started is your husband and your son encouraged you to take those art supplies up, take them from the basement and bring them upstairs and bring them out to the world, is what I heard. So if someone's watching this and they've got that art kit down in the basement, or it could be a guitar kit, or it could be whatever, and they've got some work that they could get out into the world, and they're looking at this possibility. Since it's just been a year for you, what would you say to them? What would you say to them?
So I think that what I would say to them is my particular tagline is, it's never too late to create. And what I would say to them is, baby steps, my friend. Break it down into small steps so that it doesn't feel so overwhelming. And then I would also say you gotta do it so that you're learning. If you are holding yourself back because you're afraid to take those first steps, the first steps are going to help you learn what the next steps are. And I feel like that was what I definitely tapped into perseverance, for sure. Perseverance was a very, very important part of kind of me continuing to move forward. And I would want to have everyone who's listening really embrace that there is work involved and you have to be willing to do that work. But if you persevere and you have this you embrace the learning journey, it is going to be transformational. And it's never too late to get started. It's never too late to create. If you're in the creative space, it's never too late to do whatever it is that you want to do. But I highly, highly recommend that you start now, because those incremental first baby steps, all of a sudden you're going to look back and say, oh my gosh, 18 months ago, I had 25 people on my list and now I have 10,000. How did that happen? And it happened because I took baby steps. And I love your expression of, you got to launch and learn. You got to launch and learn. You're going to learn more by doing than by thinking about what you could be doing. You got to take those baby steps.
Mm-hmm. Well, as you reflect back to last September, before you joined Product Launch Formula, and where you were and how you felt, even as you were watching my launch and thinking, could this work for me? What did you feel like, or if you could give yourself right now, if you could, knowing what you know now, could give a message to the Ann that was back there thinking about investing in Product Launch Formula at that point, what would you say?
So I would definitely say it's worth like every single penny, and that I'm a step-by-step learner. And so I love the way the program is broken down into very, very organized steps. I feel like if you do them in the right order and don't come with an assumption that there's part of this that you already know, you're going to do great. And mostly it's it's an incredible investment in yourself. And I have always been a huge believer that investing in ourselves is really, really important. And that's how I approached it. I approached it as an investment, and then something that I knew I would probably have to watch multiple times. And that's one of the beauties of an online program, is that you can watch it as often as you need to. And however many times you need to watch it is what's right for you in terms of going into gaining the knowledge that you need and diving deeper. And so I always tell people, listen, it's really important to invest in yourself. And I think it's also really important to then complete the program so that you feel like you're getting the absolute most value. And I would highly encourage people to set a deadline for themselves. So I set a deadline for myself. I said that when I bought your course, I was going to pay myself back when I did my first launch. And I did that in spades. And that made me feel really good, because I'm a very deadline-oriented person. And I would recommend that for other people who are also considering purchasing the program.
And thank you so much. It's been great to watch you over the last year, and I can't wait. I know you're just getting started. I can't wait to see what's to come in the coming years.
I can't wait either, and I can't wait to participate in your next launch, Jeff. It's going to be so much fun. I learn something new every single time.
Is Ann awesome or what? I absolutely love her story. I love her energy. She's just so fun. So fun. And I will tell you something. Like I said, I recorded that with Ann a year ago, I think a little over a year ago, right? What was her progression? She went from $13,000, which was sort of her proof of concept, which, by the way, is a great launch. And remember, Dan's been gathering questions. I'm going to get to more questions. And someone asked about that, someone about the $13,000. But she went from $13,000 to $42,000 to then $100,000 in her first full year in business. So this wasn't like a $100,000 launch. She did, I think, 3 or 4 launches that added up to that. So this 42, I think, is part of this 100. So I just want to be super clear on that. But then, in her second full year in business, actually, what would a good second year in business be? Go ahead and type in what a good second year in business. Remember, she started out, she was delighted to do a $13,000 proof of concept. And first full year, because she did this in December, first full year, 100,000. Second full year, go ahead and type in the comments. So she went from 0 people on her list to 10,000 people on her list. And I know we got questions about lists and email lists, and we'll be getting to those in just a minute. But she did that she started to publish. She started doing a weekly Facebook Live. Initially, it was just her cousin was watching. That was the only person who was watching. But she was learning to talk to the blue dot. So you know what she meant by that, right? On your your computer, the little camera up there, when it's live and you're live, mine turns green, but hers, I think she said blue dot. I'm not sure she said blue dot or green dot.
She did. She said green dot.
Green dot. Okay, sorry about that. So she's talking to the green dot, and Joan, I just unplugged this thing. Could you get this thing plugged back in? And she's talking to the green dot, and she's just learning, even though there's just one person. Her cousin Katie's watching. One person watching, but she's learning. And after doing a few weeks of those, then she started spending $5 a day on Facebook. Just $5 a day to send people in to watch her lives, right? And then you just do that, and you continue to do that for a while, and you end up with 10,000 people on your list. And remember, this is a year old, this video, so she's had a lot more. So so Gordon said $200,000. That'd be amazing to go from 100,000 to 200,000. Doubling your business is not an easy thing. Prudence said 250,000. So you think she'd 2.5x her business. Emila says 150,000 second year. Katrin says 3 times. Like 3 times your business is insane growth. Could you imagine if Apple 3 times their business in a year? Yeah. Double. A lot of people saying double, 250. Her second full year in business, she did $400,000, more than $400,000. Absolutely amazing. Now, I know I also saw people in the comments that said they've actually taken Ann's class. And they've taken Bonnie, her inspiration was Bonnie Christine. Here's an interesting piece. So Ann is her early 60s now. And when she got laid off, she was at very late 50s. And she learned from Bonnie Christine, who taught surface pattern design. Now, Bonnie Christine is another product launch formula owner, and we're going to release her case study in a few days. She's got a ridiculous story, but she's, I think, 32, 33 years old. And what Ann said is that, they are, you might think they're competitors, but they're not. They're friends, And sometimes they work together. And Ann's like, there's some people out there, they don't want to learn from Bonnie, who's this beautiful 32-year-old woman. They want to learn from me because I'm 60-something. That's the world we live in. So even if you're in a market where you're like, it's already too crowded. We heard that earlier. We heard that question. It's too crowded. There's too much noise. There's not too much noise if you put your individual imprint on your business. Some people will connect with you and not with the other people in the space. That is really important what I just said. Really, I hope you get that. Some people will connect with you. That's why it's important to follow that sideways sales letter and put your stamp on it, your personality on it, because your personality is perfect for some subset of the world. Anne doesn't need 7 billion people following her. She got those 10,000, and we're going to talk about lists. I know 10,000 seems incredibly big, but 10,000, and that did $100,000 for her, and then $400,000. So the reason I share these with you, obviously, these case studies, they just show you absolute proof. It's just you just can't argue with the formula works. You just can't argue with that. The question I know that you might have is, will it work for me? Will it work for me? And when I show you example after example after example, I'm just trying to show you that, it will work for you. I'm here to get you launched. Whether you ever buy anything from me or not, I don't really care. I've gotten to a stage in my life, I just really don't, any individual, I care about you, I really do, but any individual person, whether you buy from me or not, it's not going to change my life in the slightest. But I want to see as many of you, including you, get your work out into the world. Get your work in the world and make the world a better place. I thought of this, I'm going to try this analogy. Maybe it's a metaphor I've never done before. It's almost like, I thought of a teeter-totter, and it's been a long time since I've been. Dan, do you remember what it's like to be on a teeter-totter?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're either, and I don't even know if everyone in the world calls it a teeter-totter, but you're on a blank with a fulcrum. There's a fulcrum, and there's this long plank, and there's a handle, and a kid's sitting there, and they got their hands on the handle, and this kid's here, hand on the handle, and you're rocking back and forth. This person kicks up, this person goes down. Here's the ground. Okay, so what I've noticed, and when I started out, we had a lot of money stress in my family when I started my business 25 years ago. And my goal was just to make some money. That's what I started this business. I didn't know what was going on. I just was figuring stuff out. We needed some money to give it wasn't like we were starving, but times were tight. And I just wanted some money. I really wanted some money. And I know that a lot of people watching this are like that. It's been hard times, especially since the start of the pandemic. It's been hard times. A lot of people lost their jobs, their incomes went down. It's been hard. I also know, this is my description, the depiction of the world. That's the globe. I know because I know my community. I know the people that end up in my world. So many of you are driven to save the world, to make a positive impact on the world, to help people. And what I've also noticed, so I want to honor, we're going to call it Save the World. And I also want to honor make $1 million. But people are just like, okay, Jeff, I know the world, there's things aren't great, but I just want to make $1 million. I will honor both of you Because frankly, this is where I am right now, is just helping as many people get their work out into the world as possible. And that's my way of making a contribution to the world. But I can also remember when I didn't want to make $1 million. I just wanted to make 10,000. But what I've also noticed is it's hard to save the world without money. It's hard to save the world with no budget. And that's why it's so important to sell. Because you can't save the world unless you have sales coming in. It just doesn't work. There has to be revenue to fund the saving of the world. So I don't know exactly how I got off on that, but I just wanted to speak to that and honor both of those. Because like I said, things have gone well for me in the last 25 years. They've gone very, very well, beyond my wildest dream. So I really am focused over here, save the world. But if you're just like, Jeff, that sounds nice, but I need an income. I need an income. Then I want to honor you as well. So Anne got off on I'm a different person now. I'm a different person. It warms my heart to feel that I had some small part to play in it. Jeff, this is my baby. This is my baby. She no longer is going to that corporate job. She had a nice corporate career, but it just ended like that, right? She got called in, doesn't know why. Boss is like, your job's gone. I love waking up. It's never too late. When you put something in your brain, that's what she's doing for her people. She's helping her people. When you put something in your brain, no one can take it away from you. And there, I put it again, it's my baby. And, doing versus thinking, and this idea of giving herself a deadline. She just went for it. She inspires me. Anne absolutely, absolutely inspires me. So, how about one more? We'll do one more. This one is with Zach Tolan. And Zach has a very, very different story, but I think you're going to find it equally inspirational. I'm very happy to be joined by Zach Tolan. So Zach, thanks for joining me. And could you share a little bit about your business?
Sure. So I have been a private music tutor for the last 20 years. And the first 15 years or so of it, I would drive to students' homes about 1,000 miles a week to 60 or 70 different private lessons. So all around West Michigan. And it was a lot of work organizing the schedules. I'd have to make a northeast quadrant on Mondays and a southeast quadrant on Tuesdays. And it was 6 days a week. And it was very fun work, though. I love it, because kids are so exciting. But the driving, the gas mileage, the wear and tear on the vehicles, the winters, there were the problems with the way the profession worked. So eventually I decided I needed to start utilizing more online lessons and getting students to come to me. So like a lot of teachers, I started to do this dance where I transitioned students to my house for lessons. And then I started making virtual courses for some school districts. And eventually my business started to come primarily, 80% of it came from the school districts that I was making the virtual courses for. And I thought that was going to be wonderful. It seemed like the golden goose kind of job opportunity. However, the state started changing their funding, and when the program started to get cut, all of a sudden I realized I had put the majority of my eggs in that basket. And if they decided to pull the funding, then I would effectively be out of a job, and I couldn't exactly just go apply to another school district to say, hey, I want to make music programs for you. Can we just start that up? So I was on a hunt, and I was on a very worried hunt to figure out how to get my business to be able to still work online, ideally from home, and make it work so that I had a diverse array of customers instead of just the school systems. So that was my big problem, and that's where I started to find you.
Yeah, so you found your way into my world. I think you said that it was originally you heard me in a podcast that I did years ago with Amy Porterfield. Yep. And you found yourself into my world, and then how did that journey go?
So I was on the hunt for anything I could find that would help me understand how to just reach out to the broad market. And so I was consuming podcasts and books, and I found all sorts of things that claimed to be able to work. But after hearing, you hear, you listen to enough of these things and you start to realize that some people are on top of others. There's a hierarchy, and some people learned from others. And it seemed like all of the points of the pyramid started to point up to you. I found very many of these people who they were just, they said you were the guy, the one who started it. And, I love people like Mozart, like Leopold Mozart was the teacher of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. It's fascinating when you can find these experts who are the ones who create these kind of prodigies. They create these subsets of themselves, these copies of themselves that can go out and, use it in different ways. And you were at the top of that pyramid. Again and again. And so I thought, okay, I need to listen to what he has to say. And you were still active. You were still out there teaching. And I thought, yes, I found a mentor. I found a guide for my problem. And that's what brought me to product launch formula.
And so tell me about your launches. Tell me about what happened next.
Well, it became a whirlwind. COVID was hitting, and you were doing a launch in response to the shutdowns across the country. And I was worried more than ever that the school systems were going to be cutting down the funding because of COVID. It was already the case that some of my districts were getting shut down, and my programs were getting cut. And so I thought, who knows what's going to happen with this? Like, it was more up in the air than ever. And I thought, I've got about 5 months before the next school year starts. This guy says he coaches people of all sorts of disciplines, products and services of all kinds. I think I'm going to listen to what he has to say. So I started joining your launch workshop, and it was a 3-day intensive. And at that point, that blueprint especially, that blueprint you made for the product launch formula, that was my guiding light at first. I thought, this is what I need. If he's got a blueprint like this that can walk it through step by step, someone who knows nothing about marketing, nothing about internet marketing, I looked at that and I thought, if I do this, this all makes sense. This is how I'm going to communicate what I do, because it's different. I work with young kids especially, and parents are skeptical of getting young kids onto a computer to learn piano. And more now because the whole world has had to do so much online learning, but at the time it was unheard of. And so I knew I was a fish going upstream. And the way that you articulated your messaging, because what you do is pretty, unique and specialized too. And I thought, if he can communicate like that, and I can learn to communicate what I'm doing like that, I think parents are going to see why this is not just competitive with in-person lessons, but it can be better. And that's what we started doing. My team and I started to come back together. I'd had teams over the past, and they would grow, and then my program would get cut, and I'd have to dissolve it. And so I thought, okay, let's hit this. And within a couple months, the way that you structured your learning, it resonated with me, and I was able to apply that in a way that communicated the value I could add to people. And I had twice as many sign up in a single, my very first launch, I had twice as many sign up as I had ever taught in my life. So my peak for teaching lessons before was 69 students in 1 week. And after my first launch, I had 159. So not just double, but some odd multiple. Anyway, and I was blown away at the response, but you had the blueprint, you had the formula. And so I was able to take it and apply it and just show up and serve and anyway, bring the energy, and it's still going. Now I'm in my second year, and it's going into even more new directions that I would have never expected at first, things I never anticipated, but great new directions.
159, and were they signing up for, was it video lessons then at that point? Because you weren't doing one-on-ones with 159 people.
Nope, these were live classes, group classes. Oh. So take a bunch of kindergartners and first graders and put them into a class of 15 or so, and then have keyboards set up on their side. And then I've got my keyboard kind of set up right here. Like I can teach right from Zoom and then do screen sharing so they can see what I'm playing. And anyway, and we just do it like song by song.
And did they sign up for like on a weekly basis, or did they sign up for X number of weeks or X number of months?
So I was really nervous. I saw a lot of other people launching. Part of what's amazing about PLF is the community is so large. You can find other people who are doing something very similar or something related enough so that you can get coaching from them. And when I started seeking out what other people were doing, I was able to imitate little pieces of their model and put it into my model. And a lot of people did year-long programs, or what would have been customary with semesters, but I was really nervous about that. So I just said they can sign up month by month. And so it was like a $47 a month, or if they had 2 kids or wanted to sign up for 2 lessons, it was $77. And if they had 3 kids or wanted one student to take 3 classes, they could do $97 a month. So those were my price points. And my goal then was to keep them. So if they signed up for the first month, then what am I going to do to deliver to make it worth their while to keep going a second month, and so on. So
I've just pulled out my calculator here. So, I mean, sounds like it was in the $7,000 a month, somewhere in there, depending on how many took the multiple kid option.
If they had all been the 47 a month, then that would be right. But it was a little more like 11,000 because the mix between the 3 price points.
Okay, so it was 159 sales, but some of them were the higher price for more kids. So you're actually helping more kids than 159, and all of a sudden, $11,000 a month, and of course people don't stick forever, so that's, it's not always going to be $11,000 a month, but still that had to be just amazing.
Sticker shock. Yeah, it was, I think sticker shock's not quite the right word, but for me, I was like, I couldn't believe it. It was unfathomable. A few months before, I just wanted, my goal was $5,000 a month so that I could replace the income I was making. That's about what I was making with my programs through the schools and all my other private lessons put together. So to all of a sudden have that more than double, it was, I could sleep at night all of a sudden having months and months of extra money in reserve.
And Zach, can you just talk a little bit about the difference in your lifestyle of driving to all those different clients and doing 1,000 miles a week to what your life is like now with a digital, a digital business, basically?
Well, okay, I don't want to get all, okay, it's hard to describe the emotional transformation, because that's been the biggest one. When you're driving that much and you're just in a little car, you're literally worried for your life every day. Like you see, I would call it, I don't mean to be offensive, I would call it the idiot of the day. If you drive enough miles every day, you see someone doing something they shouldn't be doing on the road, and it's scary. And so I got whiplash once from getting rear-ended, not my fault, but there were hazards that came along. You wouldn't think teaching piano lessons would be hazardous, but in Michigan, in the snow, in the winter especially, it can be very hazardous. So with that, with the income and the flexibility and the job security, because now my customer wasn't just like one paycheck from the state of Michigan. It was over 100 different families saying, I want to learn from him. I want my kid in that class. And that would mean that for me to lose my job, I'd have to lose all of them at once. And that's what I liked about how my job was before I was making courses that the state of Michigan would pay for. And I missed that. So when I got that back and I was working from home and I had all this extra time, it started to feel like I was in retirement almost. Just because, it's just 2.5 hours a day, 4 days a week. And that's my committed teaching time. And everything else is, I get to sleep in, I get to make breakfast with my son, I homeschool my son, we get to spend more time together, we play more video games, we go out to the park more, like the family dynamic is better, I get to be more creative, I get to practice when I want, when I have an idea for a new product or a new song that one of my students would like to learn, I can just sit down and do it. And before it was list keeping and I don't keep lists like that anymore. I keep an inventor's binder of my favorite projects that I'm just working on, making better. So total transformation.
So if I'm doing the math right, you said your commitment is 4 sessions a week at an hour and a half each?
2.5 hours. Yeah. It's at 16 different sessions that are a half hour each.
Yeah. So 10 hours a week is your commitment.
That's right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. It's actually less. It's actually 8. There are little breaks in there. So there's like half-hour blocks where I can just go make sure my son's okay.
What's a lifestyle for you? The income has become great. The security is great, but it's really also just really built around your family and being present with your family and the lifestyle.
And Mr. Mom was part of your story that always resonated with me. Like I was thinking, like Jeff wants me to be on a case study. Like I'm going to really speak out to the homeschool dad, private music teacher niche, because there's so many of us out there. But for me, it's a dream come true. Like you talk about how do you phrase it, like making a life of your dreams. I didn't think this was possible a year and a half ago.
Amazing. So, let's talk about a list and list building. I mean, you didn't come into this with a huge list or anything.
Almost zero. Yeah.
A list of zero.
Yeah, basically. I had customers from the previous many years, but that list was so old that many of those students had already grown up and graduated from school, so they weren't viable list anymore. Yeah, how I list build it, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Well, at the time, I had no idea how to do it. You really emphasized from the very beginning that your success in part had to do with your obsession with list building. And I have not been obsessive about list building, but I did know the metrics showed from several of your other trainings that if I could get about a 5% conversion out of my list. So you taught me that you're not going to get them all. You're not going to even get half of them. If you get 1 out of 20 on your list, then you can make a viable business. And for me, each student, if they were worth $47 a month, or somewhere between $47 and $97 a month, then if I could get just a small bit of students, that would be enough to get to my $5,000 mark. So I thought 100 seemed like a number I could definitely achieve. So I just needed a list of 2,000, and that was my 5%. So I set out on Facebook ads. I started doing free workshops, which was a lot of the help of your coaches, the PLF community coaches. You can just leave comments in the lessons, and when you're not certain about something, you just ask a question, or on the Facebook group, and they're so helpful. And the community of people, when you're not sure how to run something, even you just get stuck with the Facebook pixel, you just ask a question about how to install a Facebook pixel or something weird like that. All of a sudden, I wasn't going to Google anymore. I was going to your search network because it was faster and better and more reliable. And they walked me through in baby steps. So, because I'd never done any of that before.
A lot of people, they might have something they wonder if they can actually, if it works to teach online. So you were always doing individual lessons. Is it possible to teach music online? How has that experience been for you? Is it still, are your students getting the results? Are you getting the warm fuzzies from working with them?
Yeah, the relationship is better than ever for a lot of reasons. The first thing, I guess, was in order to get people to believe that it could happen, I didn't want to try to convince them. I just wanted to show them. So my lead magnet was inviting them into a free piano camp, week-long. It was a free piano camp, basically. And they could sign up for as many sessions as they wanted, and I sorted them out by grade level. So I'd get my kindergartners and first graders together, and because they don't do well with sixth graders in the same class. So I made just a few different sessions, and then for about 2 hours each day, I would go on for 4 or so sessions that were each a half hour, and I just put a Facebook ad out that said free kids piano camp. Show up. It's on Zoom. They'd show up on my landing page. They would sign up for the class that seemed right. I didn't even make a video. I just wrote a long form copy explanation of, hi, I'm Zach. I make courses for schools. And because everybody's in lockdown and you're looking for things for your kids to do that are constructive, then if you have a piano, or if you can even download a free piano app on a tablet or a smartphone, sign them up for piano camp and we'll start playing songs on day 1. And so I picked out some easy starter songs, fun songs like Twinkle Twinkle for the little kids and Star Wars for the older kids, and some pop music and some classical music. And over the course of 5 days, a good bit of them would show up. And within that time, that was enough for them to see the transformation. And when the next week came along and I said, hey, if you want to join another camp, then we're going to have another one for free. And I did it for free for the first 4 weeks. And I thought, okay, I'll at least pay for my Facebook ads. So I said, if you've already been to a camp and you want to join another one, hey, sign up for my school year program. It's $47 a month. They said, okay, let's try it. No commitment and no risk, then sure. And I gave a fun or your money back guarantee. That was the promise for them. Because parents are nervous about putting their kids in front of piano lessons. It's so often associated with tears and frustration, and that's terrible. So that's part of my personal quest, is to make learning music fun again for all these kids who try it and they have this dream and then it gets squashed. So
I love it. That's great. So Zach, one more question. For someone who's watching this, just wondering if this could work for them. They're not experienced marketers. They aren't experienced having an online business. They're not super polished. What would you say to them?
Yeah, it can work for you. Absolutely. Anybody that has a dream, whether it's spending more time with your family or taking a little bit more control, a lot of the case studies I watched when I was going through, when I was learning about PLF, a lot of them were unbelievable to me. They were so far up in the sky. I thought, I just want a little more job security. If I could just get that, that'd be great. Like, I just need to learn this. And so for people, I think if they come in even with a modest expectation and they just do a fraction of what you teach, I did not watch everything you have. I have not studied everything, and I don't implement it super well either. I just kind of got the gist of it and threw it out there, and and it still works great. So yeah, so come in, participate. If you want to change your life, that's one thing. If you just want to do a little better or try something new and see if it works for you, then yeah, you're in the right place. So I don't think, and I still look around at other programs, and I still find so many of them are your former students. Anyway, yeah, they're in the right place. So try it.
Zach, congratulations. It was an amazing pivot for your business. You've built security, you've increased your income, you've built this lifestyle where you can be present with your son, your family. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Jeff. This is wonderful. I really, really am so happy. So thanks.
I love Zach's story. It's so cool. I mean, signing up 159 for. I think we've been having fun with Nugget here. 159 people, group lessons for learning piano. So a lot of times people are like, "Can you actually teach that online?" He's doing it. I love, Zach he wanted to have that lifestyle. He wanted to have some security. He wanted to replace everything that sort of went away during COVID. And he doubled his income. He doubled his goal to $11,000 a month. Now, the thing is people, when you have a membership like that, which is what it was. He didn't call it a membership, but they're paying every month. They're not going to stick forever. So it's not going to, you can't just say $11,000 a month forever. But the other thing is during all that extra time he had, since he's only working 10 hours a week, he created additional courses. That was part of the story he didn't share during this case study. But he's created additional courses. I love his mission. I want to make learning music fun. But he wasn't going to, that's his mission. And you could see he's a fun person. He wants to do that. But he's so focused on his family and his lifestyle. Absolutely love that. Started with no list whatsoever. Now, you heard both Ann and Zach built their list slowly with Facebook ads. We're going to talk about lists quite a bit. We'll talk about lists more tomorrow in lesson 2. But like Zach said, I've always been obsessive about building an email list. Not so much building a social following. Not that there's anything wrong with a social following, but you need to move people over to an email list because that gives you real control. And just his focus on the diversification, that having 159 clients, we saw in the last couple of years that there's not a lot of security in this world. And the true security in this world is being able to create value for some other people. And when you're in a job, well, we saw what could happen with Ann. A job, that can go away. Zach was creating programs for the state of Michigan. That went away. But 159 clients paying you every month, you might lose a few of them, but you're not going to lose all of them. So that diversification and building the ability to create an online offer and get paid for it is incredible security. So I know we've got a lot of questions. We're going to do some Q&A now. We do still have our super secret segment coming up. We have our Facebook after hours coming up after I finish. I saw a comment from someone. It's like, I thought this was going to be an hour. I did say at the beginning it was going to be 2.5 to 3 hours. I'm going to do my best to get you out at the top of this hour at 3 hours. We have an incredible session tomorrow where I talk about the 3 primary types of launches. And one of them is the one where you can start off with no list, no product, and get started from scratch. So, Dan, I think we've got a whole bunch of questions. So, what you got?
Okay, well, I had a whole bunch of people asking about building lists, but it sounds like we're moving on to that tomorrow, talking more about that. Let's just do this one just to sort of reiterate this thought, though. Emma asked a couple questions about lists, but Emma's asking, do you need an extensive list before you launch?
No, you don't. I think, so this is the deal. Let me give you a quick 30 seconds on lists. Is that basically the way you build a list is you have an opt-in page, and that opt-in page, or sometimes we call it a squeeze page, and that opt-in page has some promise of some type of content, and if people put their email address in, it gets that content. So here's the content. We call that, one name we call it is a lead magnet. So when people join your lists, they're leads, they're prospects for you that might buy your product. So a lead magnet is something that they might want. It could be like, here's my top 10 tips for service pattern design. And you give them a PDF, or it could be a short video or something. I will tell you, one of the best lead magnets is our good old friend, the sideways sales letter. So you could say, hey, put your email address in, and I'll send you my free video series. Have you seen that? Have you ever seen someone tell you about their free video series? I don't know. I see it every day in my inbox. Free video series means they went through product launch formula. That's code for pre-launch. Masterclass. Have you ever seen someone offer a masterclass? That's code for a pre-launch. So that could be one of the greatest ways. So basically, you create a lead magnet, you create a page. It used to be really hard to do this. It's super easy now. There's tools where you can create this landing page, this opt-in page, a squeeze page. You can use any one of those terms. And then with great design, with just a couple of clicks, you don't need to be a coder, you don't need to know anything, you don't even need to have a website. You can create one of these landing pages, squeeze pages. You put the promise for this lead magnet, and then they put their email address in, and they get on your list. And this is the super quick version, so I'm not going to go into the in-depth, but there's software that manages all of this. And then you send people into this, and there's different ways, different traffic, but what we just heard was Zach and Ann use Facebook. You can use social here. You can use social media. You can use forums. You can have other people mail, other people's lists. So we'll go more in depth on all this tomorrow, but that's the basics of the list. And so this is something that you do, it's required. If you're going to have an online business, you need to build a list. You have to focus on that. And you know who starts out with a great big list? Absolutely nobody, never, ever in the history of the world. No one's ever started with a list. Ann started with 0. She said she grew it to 10,000. It's much bigger now. Zach started with 0. We all start with 0. I started with 0, right? But you have to get started. I love the saying that, the best time, if you want a great big tree in your front yard, you want a big maple tree in your front yard, the best time to plant it was 25 years ago. The second best time is today. And it's the same way with a list. The best time, if you did, I started building a list for this business in 2003. But the second best time is today. And so you don't need a big list. I'm going to show you tomorrow how with a seed launch can work really well if you have 200 people on your list. I'd love if you had 300, but 200 is great. And can we all agree that, some people, everyone's got a different frame of reference, and some people are like, oh, 200, that seems like insane, incredible. I could never have 200. No, it's adding 5 or 10 people a day, and within a month, you have 300 people on your list. That's the way it works. I actually have a case study that we shot just a month ago of someone with a list of 24, 2 dozen people that literally made more than $100,000 into the hundreds of thousands of dollars from that list of 24. It's a ridiculous story. It's not typical. It's not average. It's not normal. It's probably the most outrageous small list story I've ever heard. But no, you don't need a great big list.
So we've got some folks here asking, while we're on the topic of lists, let me stick on that just for one more moment here. We've got folks asking about how do you actually build a list? Do you want to maybe even just give like a couple, like if you're just starting from scratch, you're just looking to start building your list. I know we're going to cover this a lot more tomorrow, but maybe just a quick little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of, so there's generally 3 ways to do it. With paid traffic, so that's what Ann and Zach did. Paid traffic, so those are ads. Facebook's a great place to do that. It's not the only place, but it's a great place. And then there's organic traffic, and this is traffic that you drive there through some type of content, or it becomes word of mouth that your content, your sideways sales letter, is attracting people. And the best way to build a list is with a launch. Generally, the first time you do one of these launches, if you start out with a small list of a few hundred to a few thousand, you might double your list because of the sideways sales letter, because it's so attractive that you'll get word of mouth. So that's the second way. And then the third way is through affiliates or joint ventures. If you're just starting out, that's not where you're going to start out. So of those first 2, you have paid, or maybe you have like social media or forums. If you just go start participating, like for whatever you want to bring out into the world, there's a Facebook group. There's just a gazillion Facebook groups. Whatever it is, there's a Facebook group. So if you went and started participating in that Facebook group and started to build value in that Facebook group, and then after a few weeks or a couple months, remember, none of this is like get rich quick, but after a few weeks of establishing your presence there and being a good community member there, then if you said, hey, I've just created this guide on the top, the top 12 tips on service pattern design. If you're interested in it, here's my link, and then you give the link. And you could do that in Facebook groups. You can do it in forums. No, or you could create a page that's like, here's the 12 tips, right? Here's 12 tips on whatever it is. On like guitar repertoire, on service pattern design, on training your cat, whatever it is. And you send people from this group over here, and they can just read these things for free. But then at the bottom, you're like, hey, if you want my other 12 tips, or if you want my most updated tips. Like for instance, Dan created a course on doing video for online entrepreneurs, how to create really amazing videos for online entrepreneurs. He's been doing it for me for 11 years now. And he's done it for the other top people in the industry. He really knows what he's doing. So like if he created a landing magnet that was like, here, go check out all my tips for top gear for shooting online video. And you go there and there's all this, it's a nice article. And at the bottom, it's like, hey, this is a fast moving field. If you want to always get my latest when the newest gear comes out, because I'm always having to upgrade, just put your email address in. And then I'll send you my latest, the best, the newest recommendations on gear to use. So that's what we call a content upgrade strategy. So you send people over here, especially if you're sending from a forum or a Facebook group. You don't generally want to send a link just to opt in. You can send a link to go get content, and then after they get that, if they want to upgrade to even better content, then they would put their email address in, and then they end up on your list.
Awesome. Okay, so I want to give a quick little shout out to our international folks. We got a ton of people from around the world on right now, which is so cool to see. So let's give them a little love and answer a couple outside of the U.S. business kind of questions here. So how about this one? This one's from Ornella. Hopefully I said that right. Ornella is asking, what if you were not a native English speaker, but you have quite good English? Would you still recommend to offer a course in English to a much larger audience rather than in my mother tongue, which is Italian?
So this is, the answer is whatever you want. There's people doing great launches in Italy. I know, I think, what's the population of Italy is like maybe around 10 million, I'm going to guess. And, so it's obviously a smaller market than the English-speaking market, but people are doing really well in the Italian market. We have a case study for you from the Italian market of someone who's teaching yoga in Italy and doing hundreds of thousands of dollars in his business. So you could do it in Italian, or you could, if you've got a good English, having an accent's not a problem. It's just not. Some people won't buy from you because you have an accent, but some people won't buy from me because I'm too old, or I've got brown hair, or I live in Colorado, or whatever. There are some people who are not going to buy from everyone for some reason. You're too young, you're too old, you're too thin, you're too heavy, whatever it is. And so if you have good English, then but an accent, it will not stop you. It will not stop you in the English market.
Okay, how about this one? This one's from Petra. Petra's saying, how would you price yourself when you're not in the US or the EU? I'm in New Zealand. I thought I would if I would price myself throughout the world in New Zealand dollars, I feel like the value of my service would be less people because they would think it is too cheap.
It depends on where your audience is. So for most folks, for a lot of people tend to use dollars even if they're not U.S. dollars, even if they're not in the U.S. Because like if 50% or 60% or 70% of your people are U.S., just price it in U.S. If most of your people are New Zealand, price it in New Zealand. Lorraine, who was the first person who talked for Formula Botanica, she's in the U.K., and I'm pretty sure she prices it in pounds. And I'm not sure what Kate B does. She's also in the U.K. So it just depends where your primary market is. It would be your currency.
Okay, how about this one? This is an interesting one. I'm actually interested to hear what you'll think of this one. So this is Mariella. Mariella says, my avatar is a mother with a 6-month-old baby, so I can't build a list over many years. How would you deal with such a situation?
I don't know. That's a good one. So one of the principles in this market is that you want to make multiple sales. So when you sell to someone, it's better if you can make a second sale to that person. And so if it's that narrow a slice, if it's just mothers with 6-month-old, then I'd just be careful about starting that business, frankly. You don't hear me saying that too often because I don't like to crush people's thoughts and dreams and ideas, and maybe it's a wonderful one. Mary Barbera helps parents with kids that are on the autism spectrum. And she's doing amazing work, and she's built an incredible business. And so I know she has a toddler course, and she's got an earlier course, and I don't know her complete offering, but I know she has things for people moving through. So I don't know what your specific product is, but if you could create a product also for older kids, I'd feel like a more robust business.
Yeah, I was almost just thinking it's almost like the problem solution. It's like you solve the thing for the 6-month-old, but then the 8-month-old or 9-month-old or a year-old is going to have a different situation going on.
Yeah. And it depends on her product, what it actually is, but that would be the way I would be thinking.
Cool. Okay, this one's kind of a funny one. This is just interesting, but this one's from Denise. Denise says, are there people having success with PLF that go to video-based courses or membership without having to do live launches?
100%. Absolutely. Yes, most people, I'd say the majority, go to video courses or some type of not live thing. And also, I'm doing this masterclass is my pre-launch, but I also do it via video. And I've probably done it via video more than I've done it live like this.
And we've only been doing live launches for a couple years now. And I know you've done, launches with live launches with video, launches with just email.
Right. And Lorraine, who Formula Botanica, the first person I shared teaching people how to create skincare lines, she does hers purely via video. She doesn't do live broadcasts. So absolutely.
Okay, so how about this one? Taking this back to the mental triggers. I think Lynn, is name here. What is the best way to create scarcity if I'm selling a membership? I'm building a membership where people pay a monthly fee to get professionally written content.
So the best way with membership is just to have is to not have it for sale every day of the year, is to do periodic opens. So maybe twice a year or 4 times a year, you would do an open and do a launch for that open. The other way to do it would be, if you wanted to be available all the time, is that every now and then you would create some special bonus package. And if people join during that launch window, then they get that extra bonus package. And because I always like to take care of people, I would also give that bonus package to all the current members. But if they joined after that launch, then they wouldn't get that bonus package.
Awesome. Okay, let's see. So in order to bring it in on time here, we'll maybe take just one more question here.
How about a couple more?
Couple more. Okay, going on.
If you got them. If you got them.
Okay. How about this one? This one just popped up from Michelle. Michelle says, what do you think about using Instagram stories to pre-launch?
Yeah, Insta stories work. We do have people doing Insta stories for pre-launch, especially if you have a super engaged Insta following, and I do like it quite a bit. I tend to like to do stuff on my own properties, on my own website, so I have more control. But if you have a very responsive Insta following, you could absolutely do it that way.
Awesome. Okay, how about, this is an interesting one. Susan's asking, says, I teach wellness classes to health professionals and give them continuing education credits. I get paid by company sponsors and attendees don't pay. My colleagues do the same. How do I get my attendees to start paying me for my classes when they can get the same credits for free from someone else?
So I didn't 100% follow that. I'm sorry.
So it sounds like she teaches classes that the attendees don't pay for, and she has colleagues that teach classes that the attendees don't pay for. She wants to spin off her own business teaching those classes, but now she doesn't have an organization paying her to deliver them. How does she get people to want to pay her for those when they could get it for free from someone else?
It's a tough question without knowing more about the market and who you're selling to. So it's really difficult. I think at the end of the day, though, in this world, people are paying for that transformation. They're also paying for a connection to you, and they're paying for a connection to community. And I think that you use those things to stand out. I don't necessarily think this is going to be easy, and without knowing more about the market and the product, it's hard to give a better answer. But the reality is in my world, you can go, I haven't done it recently, but if you went to YouTube and Googled how to launch a product, I'm sure there's plenty of videos there, but it's just not, it's a different experience. I'm giving you a complete curated experience, a community, coaches, and so really what it is, it's about creating an offer. How can you create an offer that the other people in your market don't have? And in connection and community and coaching are always go-to answers for those kinds of questions.
Okay, so how about this from Shanti? Shanti's saying, if you have several skills that you offer, should you set up separate websites and channels for them, or should you offer them all in the same space? For example, voice lessons, shamanic healing sessions, songwriting sessions, other areas as well. Do you separate and focus on just one and one, or do you do all at the same time?
Yeah, it depends how far apart they are. For those, I would separate those. If you were teaching guitar and ukulele, I'd probably feel okay about putting those on the same site. Or if it was guitar and voice, you could probably get away with it. on the same site. But those three markets are fairly different. And so I would create different properties. And I would focus on one. I'd start off with just one and get this. I keep on referring to it. I would just go back to that sideways sales letter and focus on that one. Boom, sideways sales letter.
Cool. I'm just going to jump in here. Stam's asking if we're going to talk more about physical products in upcoming lessons. Yes, stay tuned for upcoming lesson on that one. And then this is a cool one. Maybe I just think it's a cool one because it's about cameras. But Mo says, I am transitioning from family photography to brand photography. Could I use a launch system for something like this? My current client base is very different than my new target.
Yeah. So brand photography, you're going to be selling to great big companies or larger companies, or I assume, I don't know. And so I would think you could probably send an email out to your list that tells them this is my new site that's going to be more focused on brand. And if you're interested in hearing my top 12 tips on branding, go there. But I think it has to be, it's a different presence, it's a different site, it's a different property, but some of the folks on your list are going to be interested, and you could migrate them. Those are close enough where you could migrate some of them over to your new focus.
Okay, so we are just at about 3 hours total broadcast time here. How you feeling? You want to keep save some questions for next time?
Yeah. You got one more for me?
Let's see. Okay, I got a couple. Let's see. How about this one? So I want to hear your opinion on this one. So this one's from Shanti. So Shanti asked this during the case studies part. Shanti is saying, okay, so these guys are superstars, but on average, how much do people usually make on first launch? I couldn't possibly expect that $13,000 number. I think she's talking about Ann's.
Yeah. Oh, if you could share this journey that I have been on. So first of all, they're all, Zach and Ann and Lorraine and Kate are superstars. They are superstars, 100%. And their results aren't typical or aren't average or aren't normal. And I'm not promising that you're going to get those results. But I'll tell you that one of the reasons I showed you Zach's is if I showed you some of the others, the numbers just would be, you wouldn't be able to believe them. I guess what I'm saying is I don't want to, well, there's plenty of results that are far larger than those. I'm showing you some of the ones that are, today I showed you some of the more modest ones. Again, they're not average, they're not typical. Those four are superstars. This is what, okay, here it is. In 1996, when times were desperate for my family, and I was looking for some desperate way to try to contribute to the family, my goal was $10,000. If I could make $10,000 in a year, I was willing to work really hard for a year. If I could make $10,000, it would be life-changing. And I did my first launch, and that first launch did $1,650. And everyone's got a different frame of reference for money. $1,650. For me, I wanted to do backflips. I was so incredibly excited by $1,650. It was insane, absolutely insane for me to. What was insane, what was crazy, what I couldn't believe is that someone would pay me, little Jeff, working in the basement. They would pay me for something that I created. I couldn't believe that. It was life-changing, that thought that someone would pay me for value that I created. And I had this thought. And sometimes I can be a slow study, but I had this thought then that was one of the most important thoughts I've ever had. And that thought was, if I did this once, I could do it again. And again. And I might even get better at it. And that's what happened. The next launch was $6,000 because I had more time to build up a list. And because I learned about one of those mental triggers. And then 8,000. And then a couple of years later, I launched, I did 34,000. It took till 1998, from 96 to 98 to get to this launch, I did $34,000. And then a couple of years later, in 2000, I did $100,000. And then in 2005, I did 600,000. And then in 2008, I did 3.7 million in a launch. And then in 2015, I did 5.1 million in a launch. One of those launches, I made $1 million in sales in 53 minutes. 53 minutes, $1 million in sales. It's ridiculous. And you know what the most important launch was? The most important launch, the one that changed everything, was my launch, that first one, that did $1,650. Way, way, way more important than $5 million. $5 million wouldn't have happened without 1,650. So we all start where we are. We all start where we are. We all bring certain skills, attributes, tendencies, capabilities, abilities, strengths, weaknesses. And I can't guarantee your results, anyone's results. I can't. I don't know what they will be. And some people will come in and they'll have a lot of experience, or they have a great big list, or they have a great big following, and some people will come in with no list and no product and no idea. So everyone is playing a different game, but this formula works. And this is the formula that took me from $1,650 up to a business where I've done tens of millions of dollars of sales. I've got this amazing team of 40 people. I've got clients around the world, and those clients, you got to meet 4 of them today, that are changing the world and creating an amazing lives for themselves. So you start where you're at, and you go from there. That's all we can do. In the next lesson, in lesson 2, I'm going to show you the 3 types of launches, so you can find which one of those is right for you. Because wherever you are, like I said, we all have different capabilities, but wherever you are, I've got a launch for you. You're going to find yourself tomorrow, when I show you those 3 launches, you're going to be like, okay, that one's for me. Or you might say, that one's for me, and then I'm going to do that one. Or I'm going to do all 3 of them, but first I'm going to start here. So that's lesson 2. That's tomorrow. It's going to be awesome. And this is a proven path. This is a proven path. So the Facebook group, we're going to have an after-hour session with Barry and Dorothea and JT. It's going to be awesome. Tomorrow I'm going to show you those 3 types of launches. If you can give a shout out to my team, they've been working hard in the background, moderating comments, answering customer service, just keeping me on track, making it all hopefully look fairly seamless. Give a shout out to Dan, who's been guiding me through this whole process. And this is the thing. That first launch you do, that's the game changer. Your life will never be the same. And I'm here for this next week to get you moving. Thanks, and I'll see you tomorrow. super secret segment, number one. Okay, so I actually think, let's see. So first of all, thanks for sticking around. This is the super secret segment. And, you know, when is the super secret segment? It's usually after the credits. At least that's what happens in the Marvel films. So here we are. We rolled credits and super secret. So one thing I wanted to talk about is objections. So no matter what you're selling, there are people, they'll have reasons they don't want to buy from you. So and we call those things objections. Like in sales speak or marketing speak, they're called objections. So it's like, like for me, there are two of the biggest objections are I don't have a product or I don't have a list or both. And so those are the biggest objections. You heard Zach Tolan talk about teaching piano, and parents are scared to put their kids in a lesson because it ends up so often in tears and frustration. And so that's a big objection he has to overcome. Lorraine teaching people how to create skincare products, one of her biggest objections is where do I get the ingredients for those things? So no matter what you're selling, there are objections. And so a lot of times when people are starting out, they want to pretend those objections don't exist. They want to sort of sweep them under the rug. They want to not talk about them. But the reality is that they've got those objections, whether you want to talk about them or not, so you can't bury your head in the sand. You have to, actually what you want to do is raise the objections and then answer them. And then continually raise them and answer them, raise them and answer them, raise them. And the great thing about the Sideways Sales Letter is it gives you the opportunity to do that. It gives you the opportunity to answer those objections. So Dan, I think I'm actually going to step back. Is that okay? Okay, so where do you do that? Where do you raise and answer those objections? I'm actually going to, we still got the comments going even though it's super secret. So money and cost and time and commitment are big. Yes, absolutely. That was Renee. There we go. And Kathy, well, Kathy said it'd be good for us to tell when the super secret's going to be. That's an interesting thing. Now, is there a reason why I wouldn't do that? Is there a reason why I wouldn't do that? That's the thing to ask when you put in a comment like that. Just there could be some thought behind it. Time could be a great one. So what you want to do is you want to answer those. So usually when people have the price objection, it's because you need to build more value before you ask for the sale. If money is the objection, it's not usually really about the money. It's about the perceived value and the return on investment. So, but it absolutely is a one. Time, wrong product or service. I'm not tech savvy, a big objection for many. Oh, that's Julie. Yep, there you go. Let me see. So, everywhere through here, you raise and answer objections. Now, again, as I talked about earlier, I eat my own cooking. I follow my own advice. So, did you see me anywhere throughout here raising and answering objections? Like, go ahead and type it in the comments what objection you saw me talking about. Go ahead and type it in there. Jenna, lack of experience. Yeah, absolutely. Some people, was that objection that like, I don't know, how do I do this? I have no experience. I don't like sales. I don't like marketing. Absolutely. Will the formula work for me? So that was Jesse. So this is what I want to say is that no matter what you are selling, and this is the most important part of this super secret segment, there's two most important parts. There are objections. Everyone selling will have objections, and you can't run from them. You have to lean into them, and you have to answer them. And if you can answer them in the PS path, that's a winning formula. It is an absolutely winning formula. And even if you pound them into the ground all the way through here, when you get to, lesson 3, we'll talk open cart, you still have to answer them again there. So you want to answer objections over and over and over. So every market's got 2 or 3 or 4 main objections. And once you get into the market, you start publishing, you're going to know what they are. And you have to continually answer them over and over and over. And then you have to do it even more in the open cart. So that's one thing. Don't run from the objections. Raise them and answer them. Raise them and answer them multiple times. And then this is the other critical piece, is that no matter what you're selling, the objection of it won't work for me is going to be there. It'll be like, you know what? You might have the greatest weight loss program in the world, and I know it works. You've proven it works. I've seen the results. But I've tried 50 different ways to lose weight, and none of them work for me. You might have the greatest program for quitting smoking, but I've tried everything. I tried the patch, I tried the gum, I tried meditation, I tried everything, and it won't work for me. You might have the greatest program on creating a meditation practice, but I see the benefits that people get. Everyone's talking about it, but I always have these thoughts going through my head. I just can't meditate. It doesn't work for me. So you have to answer that objection, is a critical one. There's this idea, first people will disbelieve you, but then if you get them to believe you, they'll disbelieve your method. But then if you get them to believe your method, then they'll disbelieve that you can actually teach that method, transfer that method. But if you convince them you can do all those 3 things, then they'll still disbelieve that you can do it for them. Now, I don't want this to sound like all doom and gloom. This is just the reality. We're just being real here. Just the reality. But the reality is if you follow this process, it gives you the time and the space and the trust to answer all of those concerns. And the way you do it is through this PS path. And you take people through it so they can, by the time you get here, they can see it working for them. That's the number one objection that I have to product launch formula is, okay, Jeff, I believe you. Okay, Jeff, yeah, you got formula. It makes a lot of sense. Oh, and you've got thousands of students that have had success. Okay, so clearly it works in the real world, and clearly you have the ability to teach people, but it's, you know what, I'm just the kind of person, money never comes to me. Success never comes to me. I'm too old. I'm too young. I don't like to be on camera. I don't, whatever it is, it won't work for me. So my job here is to convince you that, yes, it will work for you. It will. So that's the super secret segment, objections, critically important. I didn't talk about that during the main session, but that is something that a through line that goes through this entire thing is you have to be real. You have to understand that people have those objections. You have to answer them through your pre-launch and your open cart. So I'll see you tomorrow for lesson 2, where we're going to talk about the 3 types of launches. It's going to be awesome, and you're going to find yourself in one of those launches. You're going to figure out which one is right for you. All of them use the sideways sales letter, but they use them in different ways, and I'll be sharing those with you. So I'll see you tomorrow. Remember, after hours is in the Facebook group. If you're not in the Facebook group right now, on this page you can only see this video, but after the video goes down, then we will have then the normal concierge page comes up. There'll be a link to the Facebook group. You can click on that link, join the group, and you'll be with Dorothea, Barry, and JT, and they're going to be answering more questions and having all kinds of fun in the after hours. So I will see you tomorrow.